Chapter 561. What's wrong? Lin Tai and Yang Tian hurriedly looked in the direction of his voice and saw many people gathered at the gambling table. There were only two people sitting there. One was a slightly plump, middle-aged man dressed as a foreign merchant with a pile of chips in front of him. Opposite him was a little boy about 14 or 15 years old. In front of the two of them, there was a beautiful dealer dealing cards. The two of them were obviously playing Golden Flower. Compared to the pile of chips in front of the middle-aged man, the little boy's face was empty, and he looked dejected. Why is this kid here? Yi Chen's gaze focused on the little boy. He was Zhao Xiaotian, one of the Zhao family's mother and son, whom Hell had been thinking about before he went into closed-door cultivation. My lord, you might not know this, but the patriarch often gives money to this Zhao kid. This kid is good at eating, drinking, gambling, and smoking. He actually came to our casino to play a while ago. Lin Tai was afraid that Yi Chen would be angry, so he hurriedly explained, we chased this kid out in the beginning. In the end, this kid took a box of money and scattered it around the entrance of our casino. He even said that he has money too, so why can't he come in? Due to his relationship with the patriarch, we couldn't do anything to him, so we could only turn a blind eye. Old Yi, you have no idea. This kid is really a talent. At the mention of him, Yang Tian beamed with joy and said, this kid is more addicted to gambling than anyone else. In less than 3 days after coming to this casino, he lost 2 million yuan. In the end, he even went to borrow from loan sharks. If it weren't for Ah Tai's secret help, he would have been beaten to death and thrown into the gutter by the debt collectors. As they were talking, the elevator had already reached the 3rd floor. Yi Chen walked into a private room and sat down. He lifted his eyes to look at Zhao Xiaotian below and said in a deep voice, the patriarch gave him so much money? I'm not sure about that. Yang Tian shook his head and said, in any case, the patriarch treats this kid like his own son. I don't know what the patriarch sees in him. Why? Are you jealous? Why don't you become the patriarch's godson when he returns? I'll be the middleman and hold a banquet for you two to reunite, Lin Tai teased. Yang Tian almost punched him. Get lost. Naturally, she was interested in his physical body. Yi Chen secretly laughed. Just when he was going to say something, he heard a loud laugh coming from below. Ha ha, brat, do you still have money to follow me? The one who spoke was the foreign merchant. Compared to his pride, Zhao Xiaotian, who was sitting opposite him, looked dejected. He picked up his cards and looked at them again. They were a pair of aces. Then, he unwillingly threw out the remaining 2,000 yuan of chips on the table. I want to open your cards. Kid, you want to open my card with a mere 2,000 yuan? Stop dreaming. If you don't have any money, just admit defeat and go back to drinking milk for a few years. The middle-aged merchant sneered. The onlookers also laughed. There were originally 6 players in this game of Golden Flowers, and it lasted for half an hour. During this time, 4 players quit. During the whole time, the middle-aged merchant did not even look at his cards. He was depressed the whole time. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that this was a battle of chips and psychological tactic. Zhao Xiaotian was obviously no match for him. Zhao Xiaotian flew into a rage when he heard that. His face flushed red, as if he had thought of something. He gritted his teeth and said, you can open your cards for 30,000 yuan at most. I'll bet a finger. Is that enough? When they saw this scene, Lin Tai and Yang Tian, who were in the private room, were shocked. What kind of bastard did the patriarch fancy? This kid was really mad at losing. This kid is so mischievous, but he's actually an idiot. He didn't even think about how he could defeat that middle-aged merchant. That man has eaten more salt than he has eaten rice. Yang Tian cursed. Lin Tai could not help but say, my lord, do you want me to send someone to stop him? He was really afraid that something would happen to Zhao Xiaotian. Otherwise, he would not be able to answer to the patriarch when he returned. No need. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He immediately spread his divine consciousness and saw the middle-aged merchant's cards clearly. It was 3 threes. Such a deck of cards completely crushed Zhao Xiaotian's pair of aces. Ignore him. Let's just watch the show quietly. Yi Chen chuckled softly and ignored their doubts. He said with a forced smile, I'd like to see how this kid will deal with it after he loses. The Patriarch of Hell had his eyes on this cauldron. He was also filled with curiosity. This kid was ruthless. It was good for him to suffer a little. At the same time, in the lobby of the casino, Good job, kid. The middle-aged merchant was shocked as well, and then he said, You're even more courageous than I was in my early years. All right, I agree. At this point, he changed the topic, and his expression was replaced by coldness. Of course, if you lose, leave me a finger before you scram. At the next moment, both of them flipped over their cards. Ah! The middle-aged merchant laughed on the spot. He was very pleased with himself. Congratulations, kid. One of your fingers is gone. How is this possible? Zhao Xiaotian's smug expression was immediately replaced by fear and disbelief. No, this is impossible. He screamed and threw the pie at the middle-aged merchant. Then, he grabbed a handful of chips on the table and ran toward the exit of the casino like a madman. Obviously, he wanted to go back on his word after losing. Not only did he want to go back on his word, he did not forget to take away a portion of the other party's chips before leaving. Little B****, you're still trying to run? The middle-aged merchant flew into a rage. He suddenly stood up and said to the bodyguard guarding the door, Capture this kid. I want one of his hands. Zhao Xiaotian had just run to the door when he was grabbed by a burly man in a suit. No matter how hard he struggled and resisted, it was useless. In the end, he was dragged back to the gambling table by the burly man like a chick. Slap! The middle-aged merchant stood up, walked over, and slapped him in the face. He smiled sinisterly and said, Kid, why don't you run? Why aren't you running? I've traveled all over the world for so many years, and you're the first person who dares to fool me. Uncle, let me go. I was wrong. Zhao Xiaotian was finally afraid. His face was full of fear. Wang Yao smiled coldly. I originally admired you. I thought that you were quite brave despite your young age. If you had lost, I might not have taken a finger from you. But not only did you renege on your debt, you even stole my chips before you left. Wang Yao sneered coldly. Hold his hand down for me. Not only do I want one of your fingers, I want your whole hand. Consider it a lesson for you. You have to be honest when you're in the underworld. Hearing his words, the burly man in the suit immediately pressed Zhao Xiaotian's left hand on the gambling table. Wang Yao bent down and picked up a stool. No, no. Zhao Xiaotian was so scared that he wet his pants on the spot. He trembled and said, Don't break my hand. My stepmother's boyfriend is very rich. When he comes back, he will give you as much money as you want. Wang Yao's face was full of disdain. He raised the stool and was about to smash it down. At this moment, Zhao Xiaotian suddenly said, My godfather is Brother Bao. If you dare touch me, he won't let you off. As soon as this was said, Wang Yao's movements suddenly froze, and his face was full of fear. Brother Bao Lin Tai. These few words were famous in the entire Tiannan. No one dared to underestimate him. Even he was no exception. Yi Chen, who was in the private room, could not help but look at Lin Tai beside him when he heard that. He chuckled and said, When did you have a godson? Lin Tai smiled bitterly. He did not expect Zhao Xiaotian to say such a thing at a time like this in order to save a hand. Brother Bao is your godfather? Wang Yao looked at Zhao Xiaotian in awe and immediately reacted. Little B****, if your godfather is really Brother Bao, how could he not even have 30,000 yuan? How dare he lie to me? If your godfather is Brother Bao, then my son is Mad Southern Yi. Hearing this, Yang Tian could not help but laugh in the private room. Old Yi, congratulations on having a rich father. In the next second, the stool in Wang Yao's hand slammed down. Almost at that moment, there was a loud bang at the casino's door. Then, 2 men and a woman swaggered in from outside. Lin Tai, 3 days are up. Have you raised the 1 billion yuan? End of this chapter. Chapter 562. Lin Tai, 3 days are up. Have you raised the 1 billion yuan? This sudden scene shocked all the guests in the underground casino. Everyone could not help but look in the direction of the voice. Even Wang Yao, who was about to cripple Zhao Xiaotian's hand, was no exception. Who was it? How could he be so arrogant? Didn't he know that this was the largest underground casino in Lin City? There were 2 men and a woman, all around 24 or 25 years old. They were wearing all kinds of famous brands and had famous watches on their hand. The leader was a young man with a buzz cut. He had an unruly expression and a wanton smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. His majestic gait gave people a trace of invisible pressure. What are you looking at? As if sensing everyone's angry gazes, the man behind the young man with the buzz cut grinned. A bunch of ants. I'll give you 10 seconds to leave the money and disappear. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave. As his voice fell, everyone in the casino was completely enraged. Anyone who could come to this casino to gamble was either rich or noble. They had never met such an arrogant person. Wang Yao, who was already in a bad mood, could not help but curse. F***ck, where did these 3 bastards come from? Get out! Before he could finish his sentence, his voice stopped abruptly. He only felt an intense pain coming from his neck, and then he lost consciousness. Then, his head rolled to the ground with a grunt. Blood splattered on the faces of others. Dead silence, dead silence. Everyone present widened their eyes in disbelief as they stared at the scene before them. Obviously, they did not expect someone to die so suddenly. The most frightened person was Zhao Xiaotian, who was next to Wang Yao. At this time, his face was covered in blood. His eyes were filled with horror as he watched Wang Yao's headless body fall on top of him. He did not dare to move. When had a 15-year-old like him ever seen such a scene? Kill. Murder. No one knew who exclaimed, but it was followed by a lot of exclamations. For a moment, everyone did not even bother to take the chips on the table. They rushed to the exit of the casino, afraid that they would be 1 step behind. In the blink of an eye, almost everyone in the casino had run away. Only Zhao Xiaotian leaned against the gambling table. He held Wang Yao's headless body in his arms and did not dare to move. He was obviously scared silly. The young man who spoke earlier flexed his fingers in disdain. A bunch of ants. How can they not be scared? I only killed 1 person and they all ran away. Huang Yen, there's another brat here. The woman in the jade green dress giggled as she noticed Zhao Xiaotian. Lin Tai, are you hiding and pretending to be a coward? The young man with the brush cut looked up and down the entire casino. He put on a fake smile and said, Do you think hiding will work? If you don't come out, I, Duan Hong, will kill your men first and then destroy your casino. Stop. Right at this moment, a furious voice resounded. Subsequently, Lin Tai and Yang Tian leaped out of the private room one after another. Their eyes were burning with anger. You 2 pieces of trash have finally come out. Duan Hong sneered. I thought you were going to hide for the rest of your lives. Are you ready for 1 billion? Yes, hurry up and take it out. This is your only chance to live. The young man behind him, Huang Yen, also laughed. His eyes revealed a look like a cat playing with a mouse. They thought that Lin Tai and Yang Tian would definitely reveal a look of fear. Who would have thought that the 2 of them would suddenly laugh? Impudent! How can you still laugh? The woman in the jade green dress's expression turned cold. Killing intent filled her eyes. Could it be that the lesson Huang Yen gave you 2 pieces of trash last time wasn't enough? Curson is right. Huang Yan's expression was extremely gloomy, The two of you might be considered experts in the secular world, but in our eyes, you're no different from ants. At most, you're just slightly more powerful ants. You three idiots! Yang Tian was not angry. Instead, he laughed. We're laughing because you don't know that you're about to die. How dare you come and ask us for money? Duan Hong and the other two were furious. In the next second, Lin Tai took a deep breath in and turned around. He knelt on one knee and said to the private room on the third floor, "Welcome, my lord." Duan Hong could not help but look at the third floor. He said in disdain, "I was wondering where the two of you pieces of trash got your confidence from. So, it's because you've hired help. I'd like to see what kind of help gives you such confidence. Another one who has a death wish. Don't celebrate too early, you two pieces of trash. You'll suffer later." Huang Yan sneered. "Brother, don't do anything when these two pieces of trash's helper comes out. Let me do it. I want these two pieces of trash to see how powerful we are." The woman in the jade green dress licked her lips with a cruel expression on her face. "Oh, is that so?" A calm voice came from the third floor. In the next second, the door of a room on the third floor shattered, and the shards scattered everywhere. Subsequently, a powerful energy tore through the air. A skinny figure flew in the air with his hands behind his back. He walked in the air step by step as if there were invisible stone steps under his feet. They saw that graceful figure. Lin Tai and Yang Tian's eyes were filled with passion. In their hearts, Yi Chen was an invincible existence, an undefeated legend. He's quite capable. No wonder these two pieces of trash are so confident. Duan Hong squinted as his eyes flashed. Huang Yan and the woman in the jade green dress behind him were no exception. A solemn expression flashed across their faces at the same time. Clearly, Yi Chen's appearance gave them some pressure. After Yi Chen landed, Duan Hong said in a deep voice, "Are you the helper that these two pieces of trash hired? I'll make it clear first. Scram if you don't want to die. You three pieces of trash are the people who extorted 1 billion from Lin Tai?" Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back with a cold expression. "Who gave you guys the courage? I'll give you guys a chance. Scram within 3 breaths or I'll kill you." "How dare you?" Duan Hong and the other two were furious. "Young Master Duan, why are you wasting your breath on him? We'll talk after we kill him." Huang Yan smirked as he clenched his fists tightly. A series of cracking sounds came from his bones, filled with extreme power. Following that, he stomped his feet on the ground, causing the ground to shake violently. He stomped his feet on the ground, causing the ground to shake violently. Subsequently, his body appeared before Yi Chen like a ghost. His right hand expanded in the wind, and his fist was filled with a sharp wind that seemed to be able to topple mountains and overturn seas. Such power made Lin Tai and Yang Tian's faces turn pale. It was because they were defeated by Huang Yan in one move earlier. They did not even have the ability to resist. Duan Hong and the woman in the jade green dress could not help but sneer when they saw that. Huang Yan was using the Huang family's martial technique, the Tongbi fist. Using it against ordinary martial artists in the secular world was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. On the other hand, Yi Chen's expression remained the same from the beginning until the end. He did not move at all when facing Huang Yan's sharp punch. Subsequently, he threw a punch. Chapter 563. Bang! The two fists, each containing a terrifying power, suddenly collided. With a low muffled sound, an invisible and terrifying wave of air spread out in all directions. A gambling table was torn into countless pieces by the powerful wave of air. Yang Tian and Lin Tai were shocked by the shockwave. It was too powerful. Initially, they thought that they would be considered powerhouses in China after stepping into the cultivation world. However, they could not help but think that they were looking at the sky from the bottom of a well after facing the might of Yi Chen and Huang Yan's punches. They had no idea. Yi Chen was not strong in terms of cultivation base. It was his physical body. Thud, thud, thud. After the two fists collided, Huang Yan retreated rapidly. He seemed to be staggering. Meanwhile, Yi Chen was like a rock rooted to the ground. He did not move at all. He actually took Huang Yan's tongquan? At that moment, shock appeared in the eyes of Duan Hong and the woman in the jade-green dress, who were sneering. One had to know that although Huang Yan was not considered an outstanding disciple in the Huang clan of Shang Santian, he was considered outstanding among his peers. Most importantly, he had even cultivated the Huang clan's yellow-rank martial technique, the Tongbi fist, to the fifth echo. Once the tongquan produced 5 echoes, even Duan Hong, who was the strongest among the three of them, would have to take it seriously. Although Huang Yan's punch only produced 2 echoes, it should be enough to deal with ordinary martial artists in the secular world, right? Meanwhile, Yang Tian and Lin Tai were overjoyed. Is that a martial technique? Yi Chen seemed to be in deep thought. During the clash of the punches earlier, he could sense that Huang Yan's punch was very special. Not only was it filled with immense power, but it was also exceptionally domineering and sharp. It was as if he had refined the energy into a weapon. After Huang Yan, who was knocked back, stabilized his body with great difficulty, he looked at Yi Chen with shock and anger in his eyes. You can actually take my tongquan? You're quite capable, but your life ends here. As soon as he said that, with a low grunt, the clothes on his body were torn apart, revealing 2 skinny arms. As soon as the grunt was done, he pounced at Yi Chen. The muscles on his arms could not stop trembling, as if there were countless worms wriggling in them. Smack, smack, an unusually ear-piercing and deep crisp sound rang out from within his arms. It sounded like his joints and bones were exploding madly. The sharp wind whistled endlessly. Wherever Huang Yan passed, the ground would shatter, and the air would explode. It was as if the sky and earth were collapsing. Die, brat! Huang Yan roared furiously. When he was about to approach Yi Chen, he suddenly rose from the ground and threw a punch at Yi Chen's head from a condescending posture. Tongquan's tongquan. A solemn expression appeared on Duan Hong's face. That kid is dead this time. The lady in the jade-green dress laughed coldly. The 5 echoes arm fist is practically Huang Yan's full strength. Even I wouldn't dare to take it head-on, much less this kid. Meanwhile, Lin Tai and Yang Tian could not help but look worried, because they could sense that the aura on Huang Yan's body was even more terrifying than before. If a single punch landed on them, they would be heavily injured even if they didn't die. However, what Yi Chen did next stunned them. Yi Chen extended his hand calmly and grabbed Huang Yan's punch. He lifted Huang Yan into the air, as if Huang Yan's punch had landed on cotton. You. A trace of fear finally appeared in Huang Yan's eyes. Never had he thought that Yi Chen would grab him when he performed the 5 echo arm fist with all his might. Moreover, Yi Chen had removed the force from his fist. It really is a martial technique. Yi Chen nodded lightly, finally confirming his speculation. Subsequently, he looked at Huang Yan in the air and shook his head. I'll take your life. Huang Yan's expression changed. How dare you? Stop. At the same time, Duan Hong and the lady in the jade-green dress shouted at the same time. They attacked Yi Chen at the same time. Their expressions changed. Clearly, they wanted to save Huang Yan. However, the next moment, a powerful gust of wind exploded around Yi Chen. It was like a tornado wherever it passed, sending Duan Hong and the lady in the jade-green dress flying. Subsequently, a figure flew out like a kite with its string cut. In the end, it smashed heavily onto the ground, creating a huge crater. The figure's head was facing the ground, and his feet were facing upwards. He sank deep into the ground like a fallen onion. His legs twitched violently a few times before they finally drooped down slowly. Huang Yan, Duan Hong and the lady in the jade-green dress expressions froze at that moment. Dead. Huang Yan from Shang Santian was dead. Moreover, he died at the hands of a young man. No one can save someone that I, Yi Chen, want to kill. At this moment, a calm voice rang in their ears. The voice was calm, but to them it was like winter had arrived. A chill ran down their spines. The lady in the jade-green dress looked at Yi Chen in disbelief when she snapped back to her senses. Why, you killed Huang Yan. Do you know that he's from the Huang family of Shang Santian? Why you, who exactly are you, sir? Duan Hong was relatively rational. He glared deadly at Yi Chen after taking a deep breath in. He knew about Huang Yan's ability. It might be nothing in Shang Santian, but in the secular world, it was enough to suppress any public powerhouse in China. However, he still died in Yi Chen's hands. Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back when he met their gazes. His expression was as cold as a knife. You guys have the guts to come here to rob money and cause trouble. Haven't you found out who the owner of this place is? Why, you said your name is Yi Chen. Duan Hong was stunned at first. Subsequently, he seemed to have thought of something as his expression changed slightly. Your surname is Yi, your surname is Yi. Why could you be the China #1, Mad Southern Yi? The lady in the jade-green dress's expression changed as soon as she heard that. Yi Chen chuckled softly and did not comment. On the other hand, Yang Tian laughed out loud. Duan, I've told you since the beginning. You guys don't even know that you're about to die. I think you guys are really crazy about money. Why don't you find out who the real owner of this casino is? He thought Duan Hong would be afraid. So what if you're Mad Southern Yi? Unexpectedly, Duan Hong's expression changed a few times as he said with a sneer, Do you know who we are? Who is Huang Yan that you killed earlier? Shang Santian? Yi Chen's expression remained the same. On the other hand, Lin Tai and Yang Tian looked at each other. They wondered what kind of place Shang Santian was. You actually know about Shang Santian? Duan Hong was shocked at first, then he said, That's right. We're all from Shang Santian. Your so-called China #1 is just a joke. If Shang Santian doesn't come out, you bunch of ants in the secular world can come up with some heaven leaderboard. The China #1 is just a monkey calling himself king because there's no tiger in the mountain. So what? Yi Chen remained unmoved. The lady in the jade-green dress sneered. The foundation of Shang Santian isn't something you bumpkins from the secular world can imagine. If I were you, I would kneel down and kowtow to us to admit my crimes. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'm writing it. Chapter 561 is blocked. Depressing. Chapter 564. You want me to kowtow to you? Yi Chen revealed a forced smile. It was the first time he heard someone ask him to kowtow to you since he returned to Earth. Duan Hong thought that he was afraid, so he snorted and said, Perhaps you don't know how powerful Shang Santian is, but some of the old people in the secular world do. Shang Santian is the origin of the Chinese cultivation world. If not for the civil strife that broke out in Shang Santian back then, and some traders escaped to the outside world with a large number of ancient books, how could there be cultivators like you? That's right. The woman in the jade-green dress smiled proudly. Those traders who escaped to the outside world have been mostly cleaned up by the powerhouses of Shang Santian over the years. Although your Chinese cultivation world has obtained some cultivation inheritances, they are incomplete. You don't have any martial techniques or mystical techniques, and you don't know how to raise your vital energy and blood. You don't even know how to refine medicinal pills and weapons. You can only stop below martial venerable. At this point, his brows were filled with pride. That's why I said that your so-called Chinese cultivation world is just a bunch of vulgar people. They don't know what true cultivation is. They only have brute force, but they can't unleash the strength that a cultivator should have. And then? Yi Chen gave a short response. There was no expression on his face. A mocking smirk appeared at the corner of Duan Hong's lips, and his gaze became extremely sharp. Now that Shang Santian is about to enter the world, no one can change the great battle of the world. Huang Yan and we came out in advance to prepare for entering the world. You killed Huang Yan, which is equivalent to offending the entire Huang family. No one in China can protect you. Lin Tai and Yang Tian's expressions changed when they heard that. They had experienced Huang Yan's strength before. A mere Huang Yan alone was enough to defeat them, and there was still Shang Santian and the Huang family behind him. Just thinking about it was shocking. Yang Tian could not help but look at Yi Chen as he thought to this point, old Yi things had exceeded his imagination. Initially, he thought it was just a few people with unknown backgrounds who wanted to extort him. He did not expect the other party to have such a powerful background. Even Lin Tai's expression gradually turned grim. Mad Southern Yi, you're able to cultivate to such a level in the secular world at such a young age. You're even able to kill Huang Yan. This is enough to prove that your talent is shocking. Duan Hong saw their expressions and became more and more pleased with himself. However, you're nothing in front of Shang Santian. If you're smart, you should kneel down and apologize to us now. When the Huang family enters the world, perhaps we'll plead on your behalf and spare your worthless life. That's right. You're the most powerful person in China after all. I'm sure you're worth a lot. You still have to give us another 18 billion. The woman in the turquoise dress smiled faintly. Her eyes were cold. Yi Chen did not answer their question. Have you guys heard of the 10,000 Swords Pavilion? The reason Yi Chen asked this question was that someone had taken Yi Wushuang away when his sword was shattered. The person claimed to be from the 10,000 Swords Pavilion and even asked Yi Chen to look for Yi Wushuang at the 10,000 Swords Pavilion in the future. Later on, he met Shi Qianhan from the 10,000 Swords Pavilion on his way back to the mainland from Korea. According to the people who were chasing after Shi Qianhan, the 10,000 Swords Pavilion was destroyed by the Xiao family of Shang Santian. Then Wushuang, why are you asking this? Duan Hong and the woman in the turquoise dress revealed fearful expressions, as if they had been asked something that they should not have asked. I'm curious. Yi Chen chuckled softly and said, if I really submit to you guys, and if Shang Santian really enters the world, I'll have to find a backer, right? I heard that the 10,000 Swords Pavilion is quite powerful, so... As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Hong and the woman in the turquoise dress immediately revealed enlightened expressions. At least you know your limits. Duan Hong smirked coldly and said, however, don't hold any hope for the 10,000 Swords Pavilion because it's already been destroyed. Not a single person from the entire 10,000 Swords Pavilion survived. Is that so? Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. He knew that he was lying, so he could not help but ask, I saw a white-haired young man with the surname Shi before. He claimed to be the successor of the 10,000 Swords Pavilion. Is he a liar? You know that demon, Shi Qianhan? Duan Hong's expression changed. Shi Qianhan is indeed the successor of the 10,000 Swords Pavilion. However, he betrayed the 10,000 Swords Pavilion decades ago for a woman. The woman in the turquoise dress sneered. He has the Netherworld token in his hands. It's fine if he doesn't find a place to hide it, but he actually took the initiative to return to Shang Santian too. She could not help but look at Yi Chen as she spoke to this point. She reacted immediately. Duan Hong, don't tell him anymore. This guy is trying to trick us. Yi, how dare you trick us? Duan Hong also reacted and flew into a rage. Congratulations, you're right. Yi Chen shook his head lightly as if he felt regretful. It's a pity that there's no reward. As compensation, I'll send you guys to look for Huang Yan below. It'll be good company on the road to hell. You're courting death. I'll kill you. Duan Hong roared. At the same time, the energy on his body erupted. The powerful energy was like a wave, causing ripples in the surrounding space. A sharp howl came from his mouth. It did not sound like a human's voice. Instead, it sounded like a ferocious bird. At the next moment, his palm turned into a claw, and a thick demonic and sharp aura appeared on his 5 fingers. I'll cripple your cultivation first, then break your limbs. His expression was as ferocious as a ghost. His aura suddenly changed, becoming powerful and overbearing. Subsequently, he grabbed Yi Chen's throat, not hiding the killing intent on his face at all. How dare a mere lackey from Shang Santian attack me? Yi Chen scoffed coldly. He extended his hand and grabbed at the air around him. He twisted his fingers into a saber and slashed at Duan Hong all of a sudden. The saber gleam that was 3 meters long caused the woman in the turquoise dress to close her eyes subconsciously. When she opened her eyes, she heard a scream. She looked again. Duan Hong's right hand that he extended was severed by Yi Chen's saber on the spot. His face was extremely pale, and there was deep fear and disbelief in his eyes. Cursin, quick, attack with me! He roared continuously. Yi Chen's ability had refreshed his understanding once again. He did not expect the illusory demon claw that he had unleashed to be severed by Yi Chen with a single slash. One must know that the illusory demon claw was the Duan family's mysterious grade martial technique. It was not something that Huang Yan's yellow grade martial technique, the Tongbi fist, could compare to. However, the woman in the turquoise dress rushed towards the exit of the casino like a gust of wind. She disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye as if she did not hear him. Blech! Duan Hong spat a mouthful of blood when he saw that. He could not help but widen his eyes when he saw Yi Chen charging at him again. Mad Southern Yi, how dare you kill me? In the next second, a head rolled onto the ground. Yang Tian and Lin Tai were so shocked that they could not say a word. He was too powerful. You guys stay here. I'll be back after I kill someone. Before they could react, Yi Chen leaped out of the casino after saying that. He chased after the woman in the turquoise dress. Since he had offended her, there was no need to show mercy. Since he had killed her, he would kill to his heart's content. Chapter 565. Winter was approaching. Lin City, which was at a higher altitude, had already welcomed winter. At night, the temperature plummeted. Coupled with the wanton autumn wind, it was like a blade cutting one's face. Therefore, countless office workers would shrink their heads and speed up their footsteps after work, wanting to go home earlier. However, on a street near the outskirts of Lin City, there was a woman in a jade-green dress running wildly on the street at this moment. Every time the woman took a step, she would use the force to leap more than 10 meters away, as if there was a catapult under her feet. Countless passers-by stopped in their tracks and watched the scene in shock. Clearly, the woman's movements had exceeded their understanding. Is this a movie? It doesn't look like it. I don't see any wires or crew members. Get lost. Facing the crowd's discussion, the woman in the jade-green dress suddenly waved her hand. A majestic true energy surged out of her sleeve, immediately sending many passers-by in front of her flying. It's not a movie? It's true. The woman ignored the crowd's shock and ran towards the suburbs with all her might with her true energy. Her beautiful face was filled with fear. How can he be so powerful? How can he be so powerful? Duan Cursin's eyes were filled with shock. She and Duan Hong had entered the world this time to prepare for Shang Santian to enter the world. Naturally, they needed a lot of money. Therefore, as soon as they appeared, they relied on their martial arts to plunder in the secular world. That was why they extorted 1 billion from Lin Tai. After all, to them, the so-called cultivators in the secular world were vulgar people who did not have a complete system. They were at their mercy. Who would have thought that Yi Chen would kill Huang Yan so easily as soon as he appeared? Even Duan Hong, who was the most powerful among the 3 of them, could not escape from him. One had to know that Huang Yan was a martial artist at the beginning of the innate stage. His strength was equivalent to a peak martial Dao master in the secular world. Coupled with the 5 Echoes arm fist, even she was not his match. However, he was killed by Yi Chen within 2 moves. The entire process was as fast as lightning. And Duan Hong, he's an ancient martial artist at the innate stage. He's the most powerful among the three of us. With my Duan family's martial technique, the illusory demon claw, we can even fight a martial artist at the innate stage, but Duan Kersen's face turned pale at the thought of this. The Chinese cultivation system originated from Shang Santian. In the eyes of Shang Santian, there was no such thing as inner force, meridian, or martial Tao master. There were only acquired and innate. The Xiantian realm was equivalent to the martial masters in the secular world. The Xiantian realm was further divided into 5 minor realms, namely minute subtlety, first glimpse, advanced, mysterious, and perfected. Above perfected was the martial venerable realm. In their opinion, the combat strength of the so-called peak martial Tao grandmasters in the secular world was at most equivalent to the initial glimpse of the innate stage. They were still far away from the true peak innate stage. Damn it, Mad Southern Yi is just a person from the secular world. How can he have such powerful combat strength? If I didn't escape decisively, I'm afraid I would have. Duan Kersen's eyes were filled with fear. She kept walking. Run, I have to run. I have to run to find Duan Peng. He's in Beijing. As long as he makes a move, Mad Southern Yi will definitely die. At this moment, her footsteps came to a halt. She looked at the rooftop of a villa district 100 steps away, and her face suddenly paled. He saw a skinny figure standing proudly with his hands behind his back, looking at him quietly. Duan Kersen shuddered immediately. It's Mad Southern Yi. Yi Chen had caught up so quickly. Did that mean that Duan Hong in the next second? Yi Chen leaped down from the tall building and walked over slowly with his hands behind his back. Mad Southern Yi, let me go. Duan Kersen pleaded. There's no deep hatred between us. You don't have to kill me. As long as you don't kill me, I can give you anything, including the money we stole and even my body. Yi Chen did not slow down as if he did not hear her. If you want me to die, you'll have to die with me. Duan Kersen's face turned pale, and madness flashed through her eyes. She took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it. She said hysterically, "Let's die together, let's die together." Subsequently, her body aged rapidly, and her skin shriveled quickly. In the blink of an eye, she was as dry as a mummy. At the same time, an aura that was even more powerful than before erupted from her body. The aura filled heaven and earth without hiding it at all. It caused the air to explode. Is that the demonic life reduction pill? Yi Chen squinted slightly. He had seen Shin Tianan and Lei Feihu's change in Duan Kersen before. She consumed a forbidden pill and used all of her vitality in exchange for an explosive increase in power. So what? You'll still die. He scoffed and turned his fingers into a saber, charging directly. 2 earth-shattering battles broke out on the spot. Chaotic and powerful energy spread within a radius of 1 mile. At the same time, the duo fought in a villa a kilometer away. The Gu family welcomed 2 big shots that night. To show their respect, Old Master Gu even led the Gu family's upper echelons out to welcome them. In the Gu family's living room, Old Master Gu sat upright and lifted his eyes to look at the man and woman before him with respect. Both of them were dressed in ancient clothes and were no older than 30 years old. The leading lady wore a white dress. She looked stunning, but she had an extremely cold aura. Meanwhile, there was a rather handsome young man in ancient clothes behind her. There was a faint arrogance in the young man's eyes when he looked at the people from the Gu family. At that moment, Gu Yingying served the tea that she had brewed. A smile appeared on the lady in the white dress's cold face. You must be Yingying, right? I can't believe that you've grown so much after not seeing you for almost 20 years. Little girl, this is your auntie Ouyangqing. She carried you when you were young, but you were only a few years old back then, so you don't have much of an impression, Old Master Gu said while smiling lightly. Auntie! Gu Yingying called out and stood aside. Her beautiful eyes could not help but take a good look at the lady in the white dress and the young man in ancient clothes next to her. Old Master Gu said while smiling, Shaoqing, from what I know, haven't you been to that place for almost 20 years? Why are you back all of a sudden? Old Master Gu's face was filled with respect when he mentioned that place. In his impression, it was extremely difficult to enter that place, and it was even more difficult to get out. Uncle, I came out this time to do something for the family and recruit some talents from the secular world, Ouyang Qing said. If you're talking about talents, I do know someone. Old Master Gu laughed out loud. Gu Yingying's eyes lit up. Grandpa, could it be Mr. Yi? Who's Mr. Yi? Ouyang Qing was instantly interested. Chapter 566. Old Master Gu said slowly, he's a legend in China's cultivation world. He became the #1 in China at the age of 30. He's never tasted defeat since he debuted. The #1 in China? Ouyang Qing shook her head slightly. She did not care. That's right, Auntie. Gu Yingying could not help but say, Mr. Yi is very powerful. I think he can definitely join that whatever family of yours. Her eyes were filled with admiration when she said that. Old Master Gu nodded immediately. To him, Yi Chen was already a legend in China. He had the right to enter the place where Ouyang Qing was. My Du family is not a place where just anyone can enter. At that moment, the young man in the ancient costume next to Ouyang Qing suddenly said, Our Du family recruits talents based on talent and aptitude, not combat strength. The so-called #1 in China in your eyes is someone that we can suppress with a raise of our hand in Shang Santian. Old Master Gu frowned slightly when he heard that. Gu Yingying's heart skipped a beat. Just when she was about to say something, Ouyang Qing said, Uncle Yingying, Du Ming is right. The Du family has strict requirements for recruiting talent. As for Mr. Yi, I can meet him if I have the time, but I can't guarantee if he's qualified. Of course. Old Master Gu shook his head with a smile. Gu Yingying pouted and mumbled, If Mr. Yi isn't qualified to join your Du family, I'm afraid no one in this world can. Her voice was neither loud nor soft, but every single word was heard by Ouyang Qing and Du Ming. Ouyang Qing did not know whether to laugh or cry. Du Ming secretly smirked. Just when he was about to say something, he suddenly felt a shocking power coming from outside. Are there powerhouses fighting? Who can have such power? Du Ming and Ouyang Qing looked at each other with serious eyes. At the next moment, the two of them swept up a gust of wind and arrived at the Gu family villa. They looked down at the two figures fighting in the distance. At that moment, the battle between Yi Chen and Duan Kersen, who had consumed the demonic life reduction pill, had reached its climax. It had to be said. This group of martial artists from Shang Santian could crush the martial artists in the secular world in terms of vitality, combat experience, and control of power. Huang Yan was the same. It was the same for Duan Kersen. However, compared to Huang Yan, Duan Kersen's ability was much more violent. Perhaps it was because she had consumed forbidden medicine, she fought fearlessly. Clearly, she wanted to drag Yi Chen down with her. Die, die! Duan Kersen spat blood continuously from her mouth, but the face in her eyes was ferocious. After being pushed back by Yi Chen's punch, she roared and more true energy surged out. In the end, a small mountain condensed in her palm. The small mountain was as huge as a car. It charged at Yi Chen's head. The ground cracked wherever the small mountain passed, and the air exploded. It's the Duan family's 9th peak. In the distance, Du Ming couldn't help but be shocked when he saw this. The 9th mountain. The Duan family's martial skill, and it was a profound rank one at that. The profoundness of the martial technique was to mobilize the vital energy in one's body and transform it into a mountain peak. Upon mastery, one could condense 9 mountain peaks at the same time to suppress everything. The size of the mountain peaks depended on the strength of the caster and their proficiency in the martial technique. Duan Kursin, on the other hand, was using the first 9 mountains. Why would someone use the Duan family's 9th peak here? Could it be that one of the people fighting is from the Duan family? Ouyang Qing, who was standing aside, inhaled slightly. Du Ming's eyes were fixed on the battle in the distance. His eyes flickered non-stop. I'm more curious about who exactly is fighting the Duan family. The Duan family was not considered a wealthy family in Shang Santian. However, in the secular world, they were unstoppable. You'll die a worthy death since you forced me to use the 9th peak. Ha ha, let's die together. Duan Kursin laughed maniacally after activating the small mountain to suppress Yi Chen. She spat blood as she laughed. Child's play. Yi Chen scoffed. Instead of retreating, he advanced and took the initiative to charge at the small mountain that was charging at him. Subsequently, he threw a punch overbearingly. There was no magical power fluctuation in that punch. It looked like he was going to fight the small mountain with his body. Duan Kursin, Du Ming, and the rest scoffed when they saw that. Meanwhile, Du Ming and Ouyang Qing shook their heads lightly. However, in the next moment, their expressions froze one after another. It was because when Yi Chen's fist landed on the small mountain, his body did not collapse as they had imagined. Instead, the small mountain that Duan Kursin condensed with all her might exploded with a bang from Yi Chen's punch. It turned into dust that scattered everywhere. Du Ming and Ouyang Qing could not help but look shocked. Duan Kursin's face was filled with disbelief. At the next moment, a fist ruthlessly smashed into her body. Pooh! A streak of scarlet blood splattered into the sky. Duan Kursin's body shot toward Du Ming and the rest like a ragged sack. Eventually, she landed hard on the ground. It's Duan Kursin from the Duan family. At that moment, Du Ming and Ouyang Qing recognized her at the same time. Yi Chen charged at Duan Kursin again. Du Ming leaped and stood before Duan Kursin. He said coldly, "Who are you? How dare you bully the Duan family?" Du Ming, kill him. Kill him! Duan Kursin roared venomously as if she had seen her savior. He's not from Shang Santian. He killed Huang Yan and Duan Hong. Both of them were shocked when they heard that. Haven't you thought about the consequences of killing people from Shang Santian consecutively? Du Ming's eyes flickered as he looked at Yi Chen. Get lost! Yi Chen's response was a shout from Yi Chen. In the next second, a bloody hole appeared on Duan Kursin's forehead. Blood flowed out of the hole, and her body fell to the ground completely. Her eyes were wide open as if she had died with a grievance. When they saw that, Du Ming and Ouyang Qing were stunned on the spot. A few seconds later, a furious voice was heard. How dare you kill someone in front of me? Du Ming stared at Yi Chen with an extremely grim expression. The energy in his hands that were behind his back was getting more and more intense. It was almost boiling. However, Yi Chen only glanced at him coldly. He turned around and was about to leave. You still want to leave after killing someone? Stay here. His disregard caused Du Ming's expression to turn even more unsightly. Then, he stretched out his hand behind his back, and a powerful force suddenly erupted from his hand. Stop! At that moment, an old voice was heard. Old Master Gu rushed over from afar and happened to block Du Ming's path. He said, Mr. Du, Mr. Yi, don't be rash. Ouyang Qing's pretty face changed slightly as soon as he said that. She looked at Yi Chen suddenly. What? He's Mr. Yi? P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'm writing it now. Chapter 567. Is he the Mr. Yi that you mentioned earlier? Hearing what old Master Gu said, Du Ming's gaze at Yi Chen changed slightly. There was more shock in his eyes. He knew Duan Hong, Huang Yan, and Duan Kursin's abilities. Although they were not comparable to him, the three of them came from Shang Santian. Yet, they were killed by a martial artist from the secular world? If this were to spread back to Shang Santian, it would definitely cause a stir. Old Master Gu nodded slightly and lowered his head to look at Duan Kerson's corpse. His pupils constricted slightly. Subsequently, he walked to Yi Chen quickly and said while clasping his fists, "Mr. Yi, what are you?" He had no idea what had happened. However, he did not want Yi Chen to have any conflict with Du Ming and the rest. Du Ming and Ouyang Qing's background was too shocking. If they were angered, the consequences would be unimaginable. Meanwhile, Ouyang Qing took a good look at Yi Chen. When old Master Gu introduced Yi Chen earlier, she did not care much about the so-called China number 1. After all, she was born in Shang Santian, so she had the pride. However, she believed old Master Gu after seeing Yi Chen kill Duan Kerson with her own eyes. He was quite capable. However, he had gotten himself into big trouble. That's right. This person extorted me. He deserved to die. Yi Chen's expression was cold. Subsequently, he told him what happened slowly. Looks like it's a misunderstanding. Old Master Gu was both shocked and flustered after hearing that. He could only help Yi Chen out by instinct. After all, Yi Chen had already offended the Huang family and the Duan family. He could not offend the Du family too. Misunderstanding? Du Ming scoffed. You killed Huang Yen, Duan Hong and Duan Kerson. How can a mere misunderstanding be cleared up? However, Yi Chen lifted his eyes slowly. Oh, what are you going to do? Du Ming shook his head slightly, a sympathetic smile appearing at the corner of his lips. Don't worry, I won't attack you because you're already a dead man in my eyes. He paused for a moment, and his gaze was extremely mischievous. Because the Duan family and the Huang family won't let you go. Shang Santian is preparing to enter the world. Duan Kerson and the rest are only here to pave the way. When Shang Santian comes out, no one in China will be able to protect you. Old man Gu was shocked when he heard that. He couldn't help but look at Ouyang Qing. Xiao Qing, this is really a misunderstanding. Can you see if there's any room for reconciliation? No. To his surprise, Ouyang Qing shook her head without even thinking about it. She looked at Yi Chen with slight regret. You shouldn't have killed Duan Hong and the rest. So, are you saying that I should give them the 1 billion yuan? A mocking smirk appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lip. Of course. Ouyang Qing nodded in agreement. You're lucky that they're able to extort you. After all, spending 1 billion to please 2 ancient martial arts families in Shang Santian is a good deal for anyone. I know you'll feel uncomfortable after hearing what I have to say and you'll ask why. Unfortunately, this is the reality. At this point, she continued, however, you attack them for 1 billion yuan. It's extremely stupid. In the future, you won't be able to protect yourself even if you spend 10 billion yuan. Xiao Qing, is there really no other way? Old man Gu smiled bitterly. I'm sorry, uncle. Ouyang Qing shook her head lightly and said firmly, I admit that he has some talent. If it were any other time, I might recommend him to join the Du family. However, it's impossible now. No one can protect him. It's not that there's no other way. At that moment, Du Ming suddenly smiled and looked at Yi Chen. Since you're the so-called China number 1, I'm sure you're extraordinary. I want you to help my Du family find 2 people. As long as you help my Du family find these 2 people, not only will my Du family protect your life, but we can even let you join the Du family and obtain countless cultivation resources. As soon as that was said, Ouyang Qing's pretty face changed slightly, and she secretly sighed. On the other hand, old man Gu saw hope. I wonder who you're looking for, Mr. Du? Perhaps our Gu family can lend a hand. Du Ming glanced at Yi Chen and said calmly, they're a little girl and a lunatic. The little girl is about 5 or 6 years old, and her name is Qianqian. She's sick and she forgets something every once in a while. The lunatic is an old man who talks crazy all day long. As soon as he said that, Yi Chen's calm expression changed slightly. Qianqian. Old man Gu frowned. He seemed to be thinking about the 2 of them. Yi Chen said calmly, Why are you guys looking for these two people? Why are you asking so many questions? You just have to do as I say. Du Ming smirked coldly and said, I've already given you the chance. Whether you live or die is up to you. Ouyang Qing nodded slightly. This is your only chance to live. No need. Yi Chen smiled lightly. I, Yi Chen, only believe in myself when I do things. I never place my hopes on others. Moreover, to me, the Huang family and Duan family that you guys speak of are just a matter of killing them with a single strike of my sword. After saying that, he turned around and left. You're courting death. I'd like to see what happens to you. Du Ming watched him leave with a grim expression. Subsequently, he turned around and walked toward the Gu family villa. Ouyang Qing secretly shook her head as she looked in the direction where Yi Chen had disappeared. What a pity! Do you really think that you have the strength to fight against Shang Santian just because you killed Duan Hong, Huang Yan, and the rest? You're wrong. A mere Duan Hong is nothing in Shang Santian. Thinking to this point, she immediately followed Du Ming and looked at old man Gu who was at the back. Her lips moved slightly as she said, Du Ming, why did you reveal our true purpose to him? You don't understand. Du Ming shook his head slightly as his eyes flickered. The ghost ship is about to appear. Everyone is determined to obtain it. Rumor has it that whoever can board the ghost ship and escape unscathed will be able to control the situation in Shang Santian. At this point, he took a deep breath in. The ghost ship is extremely dangerous. Over the past few decades, too many powerhouses have entered. Other than that little girl and the old lunatic, no one else has come out. They don't know if they're dead or alive. In other words, that little girl and the old lunatic are the only people who have walked out of the ghost ship alive in the past few decades? So everyone wants to obtain some secrets from them? Ouyang Qing seemed to understand. Not all of them. Du Ming smirked coldly. For example, that lunatic Shi Qianhan went to the ghost ship to see a dead person. He was crippled by a female corpse. Hearing Shi Qianhan's name, a hint of admiration flashed across Ouyang Qing's eyes. This was a person who had fallen into the demonic path for love and betrayed the sect. He was a devil in the eyes of others. At the same time, he was a hot-blooded man who dared to kill his way into the Shao family alone for his loved ones. As soon as Yi Chen returned to the casino, he saw a young and beautiful woman crying nonstop at a 15 or 16-year-old young man. The young man in front of her looked impatient and vicious. As soon as he saw Yi Chen, before Lin Tai and Yang Tian could welcome him, they saw the young man run to Yi Chen quickly. Subsequently, he knelt heavily. Master, please accept my bow. Chapter 568. Master, please accept a bow from your disciple. Zhao Xiaotian knelt before Yi Chen with extreme sincerity. His head was banging loudly, and his eyes were filled with fanaticism. Before this, he thought that the powerhouses in this world had power and influence. In order to climb up, he could do anything and sacrifice everything. He could even give his stepmother, who earned money to support his studies, to others to play with. After being captured by Wang Yao, he thought that he had lost one of his hands. However, after the three young men and women easily removed Wang Yao's head, Wang Yao's headless body pressed on him, and blood kept splattering on his face for a few minutes. He was afraid. He was terrified. He did not even dare to scream. His youthful ignorance and arrogance in the past had all disappeared in an instant. It was the first time he realized that human life was so worthless in this world. It was also the first time he knew that humans could be so powerful. Subsequently, he witnessed Yi Chen kill the powerful Huang Yan and Duan Hong with his own eyes. He began to admire Yi Chen. If only he had such power. Who would dare to look down on him? If only he had such power. Money, power, what were they? In the short span of half an hour, his worldview collapsed and was constantly being reconstructed. Therefore, as soon as Yi Chen returned, he knelt before Yi Chen without thinking. He shamelessly wanted to become Yi Chen's disciple. His actions stunned Lin Tai and the rest. Even Yi Chen was no exception. The woman said hurriedly, "Xiaotian, what are you doing? Get up. Get lost." Zhao Xiaotian pushed her away. Subsequently, he lifted his head to look at Yi Chen. His eyes were filled with pleading. "Master, please accept me as your disciple. I'll definitely be filial to you." Lin Tai and Yang Tian subconsciously wanted to drag him away. Yi Chen waved his hand to stop the two of them. He looked down at Zhao Xiaotian, who was kneeling on the ground. "Why do you want to become my disciple?" "Because I want to become stronger," Zhao Xiaotian said without even thinking. "I want to become as strong as you. That way, I'll have the ability to protect my mother and more people." His eyes flickered as he spoke. "This is your mother?" Yi Chen glanced coldly at the young lady next to him. Surprise flashed through his eyes. He had to admit that the patriarch of hell had good taste. This woman was only 25 or 26 years old, and she was wearing a welcoming uniform. Not only was she young and beautiful, her figure was also excellent. Most importantly, she constantly exuded a trace of tranquility and a skilled aura. Being stared at by him, the woman panicked a little. She hurriedly lowered her head and said timidly, "Sir, I'm really sorry. Xiaotian came to your place and caused you trouble." "Your name is Mu Tong?" Yi Chen smiled lightly. The woman was shocked. "You? How did you know?" Yi Chen pointed at the work pass on her chest. There happened to be a photo, name, position, and other information on it. It was likely that after hearing that something had happened to Zhao Xiaotian, she did not even go to work and ran over. In fact, Yi Chen had heard the name Mu Tong from the Patriarch of Hell. The woman looked down and immediately felt a little embarrassed. What the two of them did not notice was that the moment Yi Chen looked at Mu Tong, a hint of disdain and hatred flashed through the eyes of Zhao Xiaotian, who was kneeling on the ground. Seemingly noticing Mu Tong's nervousness, Yi Chen smiled lightly. "Don't be nervous. This has nothing to do with your son today. Bring him back." "Thank you, sir. Thank you." Mu Tong bowed to Yi Chen and extended her hand to pull Zhao Xiaotian up. Unexpectedly, Zhao Xiaotian glared at her fiercely. "Don't pull me. I won't leave until he accepts me as his disciple today." "Brat, aren't you being too courteous by rebelling?" Yang Tian was enraged. However, Zhao Xiaotian raised his head with an arrogant expression. He seemed to have thought of something as he turned around and said coldly to Mu Tong, "Wait for me outside. I'll be right out." Mu Tong looked at him and then at Yi Chen and the rest. After hesitating for a while, she eventually walked out. At that moment, only Yi Chen and the rest were left in the casino. Yi Chen said calmly, "What do you want to say to me?" A strange expression appeared on Zhao Xiaotian's face. He pointed at Mu Tong outside the door and said, "I know you like her. If you accept me as your disciple, I can give her to you." Slap. Before he was done speaking, Yi Chen slapped him. He was furious. Zhao Xiaotian covered his face and suddenly laughed. "Stop pretending. You men are all the same, just like that Huang guy from before." Yi Chen wanted to slap him again, but after noticing the arrogance in his eyes, he eventually shook his head. "You want me to accept you as my disciple, right?" "Yes." Zhao Xiaotian nodded repeatedly, thinking that he had agreed. "Not just anyone can be my disciple." Yi Chen chuckled softly and said, "It's very simple if you want to be my disciple. Go back and study hard. Be filial to your mother. You should be in your 3rd year of high school soon, right? I'll give you a year. If you perform well within a year and get into university, I'll accept you as my disciple." "A year?" Zhao Xiaotian was a little unwilling. However, he eventually nodded after noticing Yi Chen's gaze. "All right, a year it is. If I get into university within a year, you have to accept me as your disciple. You can't go back on your word." With that, he stood up and walked out. Getting into university is only one of them. You also have to be filial to your mother. Don't cause trouble for me during this period. Yi Chen reminded him. After he left, Yang Tian walked over and said with a frown, Old Yi, are you really going to accept such a person as your disciple? Lin Tai wanted to say something but hesitated. Logically speaking, they should not interfere with who Yi Chen accepted as his disciple. However, Zhao Xiaotian's character was detestable. Accept him as my disciple? Yi Chen shook his head lightly as his eyes flickered. I'm only giving him hope. I want him to stop for a while. If he did not do that, he was worried that with this brat's troublemaking personality, he would be killed before the Patriarch of Hell came out of closed-door cultivation. The Patriarch would definitely fight him to the death. Yang Tian came to a realization and could not help but give him a thumbs up. Old Yi, you're smart. That's true. With your words, I can guarantee that this brat will restrain himself a lot. It'll save Ah Tai a lot of trouble. Yi Chen reminded, I'll say it again. You guys must be more careful and protect the mother and son. Don't let them know. If nothing goes wrong, when the Patriarch comes out of closed-door cultivation, he can possess them. My lord, what happened to the person who ran away? Lin Tai asked. He's dead. Yi Chen smiled lightly. Although he said it calmly, it shocked Lin Tai and Yang Tian. Yang Tian hesitated and said, These three people have extraordinary backgrounds. I think they're called Shang Santian. Old Yi, are we in big trouble? Chapter 569. Lin Tai could not help but look at Yi Chen subconsciously when he heard that. Yang Tian's worries were exactly what he was worried about. Huang Yan, Duan Hong, and the other two were too powerful. The three of them could almost crush them. If they were already like that, let alone Shang Santian behind them. Yi Chen chuckled softly, facing Yang Tian's worry. Are you afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Yang Tian glared at him angrily and said in a deep voice, I'm afraid, but we'll fight wherever you point us to. We don't care if it's a flood. Right? Ah Tai. As he said that, he punched Lin Tai's chest. Can you not call me Ah Tai? Lin Tai coughed violently, feeling a little speechless. It was because the Gu family had a poodle that could lie down and pee. Coincidentally, it was also called Ah Tai. He looked at Yi Chen after a pause and said, My life was given to me by my lord, and my abilities are also given to me by my lord. As long as my lord doesn't mind my low abilities, so what if it's Shang Santian? Even if I die, I'll break all of his teeth. Good job, Ah Tai. Lin Tai was speechless. The so-called Shang Santian can be understood as a world that transcends the secular world. They've been exposed to cultivation since they were born and have countless cultivation resources. They know how to increase the vital energy and blood of the human body and maximize the potential of the human body. Yi Chen smiled lightly and proceeded to ask, Actually, Duan Hong and the other two aren't much stronger than you guys, but you guys were almost crushed. Do you know why? Why? Both of them asked in unison. Firstly, it's the control of power. Yi Chen explained, they know where to focus their strength when they punch. They also know how to unleash all the vital energy and blood in their bodies to intimidate their opponent. They even know how to use movement technique. Yang Tian and Lin Tai looked like they did not quite understand. Yi Chen paused for a moment and said, Secondly, it's combat experience. The outside world is too peaceful after all. As a result, your understanding of cultivation is limited to the theory of cultivation methods. You don't know how to use it better. That's right. Lin Tai came to a realization. Although we have strength, we don't know how to use it. We only know how to fight others with brute force. Old Yi, is there a solution? Yang Tian asked. Yes. Yi Chen nodded lightly. Follow me somewhere later. Over an hour later, Yi Chen led Lin Tai and Yang Tian to the Dragon Soul's headquarters. As soon as they arrived, they saw many Dragon Soul members rushing back covered in blood. As for Niu Qingshan, the Dragon King, he came with injuries. Yi Chen frowned. What happened? Look at this first. Niu Qingshan handed over an iPad. Yi Chen clicked it open and realized it was a video. Moreover, it was a battle video. One of them was being suppressed by his opponent. He could not help but say when he saw the person in the video, the number 2 on the heaven leaderboard, Yang Junlin? Not bad. Niu Qingshan took out his pipe and started smoking. Isn't it surprising that the second on the heavenly list is being suppressed by someone without any ability to retaliate? Is it funny? Yi Chen took another look at Yang Junlin's opponent in the video and realized that it was a lady in her early 20s. He frowned and said, "If I'm not mistaken, this lady is from Shang Santian. Looks like you've come into contact with them too." Niu Qingshan was a little surprised. Subsequently, he puffed out a smoke ring and said, "It's not just Yang Junlin. Everyone in the top 10 on the heaven leaderboard has been defeated. Many people outside the top 10 have been killed. These people have been quiet for decades, but they can't take it anymore." Niu Qingshan sneered. The first thing these people did when they left the mountain was to rob money, rob women, kill people, and rob people. Such actions are no different from animals. How dare they live in Shang Santian? How ridiculous! What does this have to do with your injuries? Could it be that a martial venerable has come into the world? Yi Chen's expression slowly turned grim. If a martial venerable had come into the world, things would indeed be troublesome. No. Niu Qingshan shook his head and said, "In fact, the situation today is exactly the same as 50 years ago. The difference is that the previous Dragon King brought his men to Kunlun 50 years ago and blocked the entrance of Kunlun. He killed anyone from Shang Santian who came into the world." "That's insane." Yang Tian, who was at the side, was shocked. He brought his men to block the exit and kill them. Such an action was beyond overbearing. It's indeed insane. Niu Qingshan chuckled. 50 years ago, the previous Dragon King killed them until they became obedient. Therefore, I, the current Dragon King, could not help but bring my men to Kunlun. And you failed to act cool? Yang Tian could not help but ask. Lin Tai coughed immediately. Do you have to be so direct? The person before you is the Dragon King of Dragon Soul. He can kill you with a single slap. You're interesting, kid. Niu Qingshan glanced at him calmly. He was not angry. Instead, he said, "It's not that I failed to act cool. My junior brother brought his men to stop me. I fought with him, and we both won and lost. The Heavenly Palace and Dragon Soul are known as the 2 pillars of China. They view China's safety as everything. What's ridiculous is that these 2 pillars don't deal with outsiders. Instead, they've been fighting each other for decades. How ridiculous!" At this point, his face was filled with mockery and sorrow. "This junior brother of mine is determined to be a dog." Yi Chen was silent. Niu Qingshan suddenly looked at him. "Brat, my old bones can't take it anymore. Perhaps I'm not used to fighting and killing. Or do you young people have the drive and courage? Do you want to take over my position as the Dragon King?" Before Yi Chen could speak, he said again, "Don't reject me just yet. If you agree to be the Dragon King, the 800 Dragon Souls will be under your command. Your family and loved ones will be protected 24 hours a day." "No need." Yi Chen declined politely while smiling. "I'm here today to let your Dragon Soul train these 2 subordinates of mine for a while." "Just these 2 brats?" Niu Qingshan took a good look at Yang Tian and Lin Tai and said in surprise, "These 2 brats are quite capable. What else do you want me to train them with?" "Kill." Yi Chen said slowly, "Train them to kill people, ancient martial artists. How about this? Many people from Shang Santian have come to the secular world. Your Dragon Soul can't kill all of them, so I'll let you sharpen these 2 sabers. Don't worry, I won't blame you if they're killed." Lin Tai and Yang Tian's expressions changed upon hearing that. Asking them to kill people from Shang Santian. That's a good idea. Niu Qingshan's eyes lit up immediately. He stood up and circled around Lin Tai and Yang Tian. Just when the two of them thought that this old man had some special hobby, they heard him say, "How about this? The two of you will be under Li Ying for now." Yang Tian coughed violently a few times. "Old Yi, shouldn't we discuss this again? What's there to discuss?" Niu Qingshan said with a smile, "Don't worry. If you die, you'll be made a martyr. Your family will also be made a martyr. It's decided. Report here in 3 days. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'm writing it now." Chapter 570. In the training room of the Dragon Soul headquarters, Yi Chen and Niu Qingshan sat opposite each other. Niu Qingshan took a good look at Yi Chen. His expression was rather serious. "I received news that the Heavenly Palace has been looking for 2 people recently. One of them is the little girl you asked me to look for last time." "Qianqian?" Yi Chen's expression froze slightly. "That's right." Niu Qingshan nodded and said, "It's that little girl called Qianqian. Apart from her, the other person is a lunatic. That's why I asked the others to leave and told you about this alone." "Why is the Heavenly Palace looking for these 2 people?" Yi Chen frowned. "Why else?" Niu Qingshan smirked coldly. "That junior brother of mine wants to be Shang Santian's dog. Obviously, he received orders from Shang Santian. In other words, Shang Santian is looking for these 2 people." He paused for a moment and lowered his voice. "The little girl beside you isn't simple. I've secretly investigated. That little girl appeared once 50 years ago." Yi Chen nodded secretly. Qianqian's background was rather mysterious, and her body was rather special. Especially after meeting Shi Qianhan once, he realized that Qianqian was not as simple as she looked. After all, a little girl had appeared once 50 years ago. Why did her body not show any signs of growing up after 50 years? Moreover, she often forgot some things of the past. Niu Qingshan continued, 50 years ago, the ghost ship appeared. Countless powerhouses stepped onto the ghost ship, but only 2 people walked out alive. The others were left on the ghost ship forever. No one knows if they're dead or alive." He took a good look at Yi Chen. "The 2 people who came out alive are the people the Heavenly Palace is looking for. Are you saying that Qianqian walked out of the ghost ship alive?" Yi Chen's expression froze. He was shocked. Even though he and the Patriarch of Hell had all sorts of guesses about Qianqian's identity, they did not expect a 5-year-old girl like Qianqian to be related to the ghost ship. "Yes, it's her." Niu Qingshan nodded and said, "The people who stayed outside at that time didn't know what was on the ghost ship, nor did they know what had happened. They only knew that their own people didn't leave the ship. So, all the powers wanted to capture the 2 of them and investigate the secrets within. Because of this, a great battle broke out between the various forces, and countless experts fell. When everyone unanimously decided to capture the 2 first before distributing them, one of the 2 old men exploded on the spot. When he spoke up to hear, he couldn't help but gasp. In the eyes of all the powerhouses, the old man and the little girl were no different than fish on the chopping block, and they were at the mercy of anyone. Never had they imagined that the old man would lead the little girl into the midst of so many powerhouses, and no one could stop him. At that time, almost all the powerhouses from Shang Santian who entered the world were killed by him alone. There were no less than 3 martial venerables who died, and there were countless other powerhouses. Yi Chen said in a deep voice, "What happened after that?" Later on, when Shang Santian sent out powerhouses again, they realized that the old man and the young girl had disappeared. It was as if they had evaporated from the world. The people from Shang Santian tried everything they could, but they couldn't find them. Coupled with the powerhouses from China, they retreated unwillingly. Niu Qingshan shook his head slightly and said, "Later on, some people said that the old man and the young girl were ghosts and devils that walked out of the ghost ship. Some people also said that they were the resurrection of the powerhouses who died on the ghost ship. After 50 years, everyone has almost forgotten about it. Yi Chen's expression changed slightly as he secretly digested the information. When everyone had almost forgotten about it, this little girl appeared again. Moreover, she has a certain connection with you. Niu Qingshan raised his eyes and stared at him. That's why you have a time bomb by your side. Once her whereabouts are exposed, you'll become the target of everyone. You'll have to face the entire Shang Santian. So you want to persuade me not to take her in? Or should I just hand her over to Shang Santian? Yi Chen said. That's right. Niu Qingshan nodded and said, strictly speaking, this little girl has nothing to do with you. There's no need to hand her over to Shang Santian, but you can let her go and let her fend for herself. You already have such strength at such a young age. It's enough to show that you're extraordinarily talented. If you're given some time, it's not impossible for you to grow to the point where Shang Santian will respect you. However, there's no time. He sighed softly. The ghost ship is about to appear. It's inevitable that Shang Santian will enter the world. If you fall into the crosshairs of everyone, even I won't be able to protect you. Thank you for your kind intentions. Yi Chen's eyes flickered a few times. Subsequently, he said, your suggestion isn't bad. Unfortunately, I've already promised someone to take care of Qianqian on his behalf. I, Yi Chen, never make promises easily in my life, but once I do, I'll definitely keep my promise. It was the agreement between him and Shi Qianhan. He would take care of Qianqian for a month. Meanwhile, Shi Qianhan would help him find out Wu Shuang's whereabouts. A gentleman's word could not be taken back. Moreover, even without this agreement, Yi Chen could not abandon Qianqian after taking her in because he was afraid of Shang Santian. Because he would never forget it. The little girl who was wearing tattered clothes and tattered shoes, walking on the street with her head lowered. She was so hungry that she timidly reached out to the passers-by for food. The little girl felt inferior. She did not dare to look at the passers-by, afraid that she would be beaten and scolded. The timid gaze hidden in her chest was too sad. What about Shang Santian? Niu Qingshan sighed. So what if Shang Santian finds out? Yi Chen stood up slowly and walked to the door. He said firmly, if Shang Santian dares to touch my people, I'll kill 10, 100, or 1,000 of them. I'll kill them until they tremble and surrender. Perhaps you're right. Niu Qingshan watched him leave, and a trace of old age appeared on his face. I'm old. Looks like I'm really old. If I had a trace of your courage, China wouldn't be like this. After leaving the Dragon Soul Sect's headquarters, Yi Chen said to Lin Tai and Yang Tian who were following him, I'll give you guys a mission now. No matter what method you use, you must give me a person in the hall. He slowly told them about the old lunatic who had led Qianqian on a killing spree 50 years ago and then disappeared. All right. Lin Tai and Yang Tian nodded in unison. At that moment Yi Chen's phone rang. He picked it up and realized that it was an overseas number. He frowned and eventually picked it up. Master, is that you? A slightly agitated voice came from the phone. Yi Chen could not help but stop walking. Chiba Yoshiko? Master, it's me. Chiba Yoshiko immediately burst into tears. Master, I've found out what you wanted me to find out, but I've also been discovered by my family. They want to kill me on the charge of treason. Master, save me. Chapter 571. Yi Chen was surprised by Chiba Yoshiko's call. Yi Chen treated Chiba Yoshiko as a chess piece planted in Japan. From the beginning, Yi Chen did not have any hope for her. Never did he expect that things would turn out well. Therefore, Yi Chen could not help but ask after receiving her call, have you found out about the foreign fragment that I asked you to look into? The foreign fragment was the Night Demon's fragment. Until now, he had more than 10 fragments in his hands. However, the largest fragment with the night demon's consciousness was still wandering outside. Why yes, Chiba Yoshiko said intermittently, I've collected more than 20 of them. The largest one is in Japan now. Yi Chen's eyes shone brightly when he heard that. 5 days ago, I found out about its whereabouts and secretly arranged for people to snatch it. I didn't expect the operation to fail, causing the matter to be exposed. Chiba Yoshiko said in a trembling voice, at the same time, my family noticed me. If not for Master Miyamoto's help, I'm afraid I would have fallen into my family's hands. Where are you now? Yi Chen asked immediately. I'm on an island near Kyushu Island now. I'll send you the detailed address later. Master, why you have to be quick? The family has recently used their power to search for me. Alright, wait for me. I'll be there soon. After hanging up the phone, Yi Chen lifted his eyes and looked northeast. His gaze shot straight into the sky, and he could not hide the excitement inside of him. Night Demon! Wait for me, I'll save you soon. At the same time, one of the 2 major towns in Japan, which had always been known as the Holy Land of Japanese Buddhism, Rigoino. To outsiders, Rigoino was mysterious because in countless cultures, there would often be many powerful demon masters forming hand seals and chanting mantras. All of these people came from Rigoino. There were more than 100 temples on Mount Koya where ancient trees towered into the sky. Mount Koya, which had always been solemn in the past, sounded endless bells and sutras. All the temples were brightly lit. Countless monks in white kasayas sat cross-legged on prayer mats with their eyes closed. Their expressions were solemn as they chanted. Inside the largest temple in the city, the 3 old monks sat on the ground around a ball of black flowing light with solemn faces. They formed a big mudra and chanted lotus flowers from their mouth. Their chanting was as loud as thunder. A white lotus tightly wrapped around the ball of black light. However, if one looked closely, they would find that the white lotus was sometimes expanding and sometimes shrinking, as if something was struggling inside. Damned Baldies, you want to forcefully enlighten me with your measly cultivation? Aren't you looking down on your grandpa, Night Demon? Watch how I demolish your broken temple. A muffled sound of thunder came from the white lotus. As this sound fell, the white lotus on the ground exploded. The 3 old monks coughed out blood on the spot, and their faces were filled with shock. Without waiting for them, a black stream of light shot out from within. The black stream of light transformed into a huge iron ball that rampaged through the entire temple. Countless Buddha statues shattered upon contact, and countless monks died on the spot. It was as if it would kill any god or Buddha that stood in its way. Right at this moment, a tattered kasaya descended from the sky. It grew in the wind and immediately covered the large iron ball. Subsequently, it landed in the hands of a white-browed old monk. Ba, it's good. The white-browed old monk held a staff in his hand and wore blind shoes. He looked like a glaring Vajra. How can a demon like you do as you please in a peaceful place like Buddhism? Greetings, Wisdom King. Greetings, Wisdom King. At that moment, countless people were pleasantly surprised. They pressed their palms together at the white-browed old monk with respect. The 3 old monks immediately stepped forward and bowed. Wisdom King, this demon is really wild. The 3 of us gathered the power of the entire temple, but we still couldn't enlighten it. Instead, it killed many people. I already know. The white-browed old monk shook his head slightly and said, You guys retreat for now. Set up the Vajra demon subduing formation outside the hall. I'll personally enlighten it. Despite the urgency of the matter, Yi Chen suppressed the urge to head to Japan immediately. After all, it was late at night, and he had to tell his family that he was going out. After hanging up the phone, he contacted the Gu family and got his passport done overnight. He also told Lin Tai and Yang Tian some things to take note of when he was not around before returning home to discuss with Suyuhan and the rest. His daughter's birthday was in a few days. His and Su Yuhan's original plan was to stay at home quietly and celebrate their daughter's birthday. Although Su Yuhan was a little upset about this, she eventually agreed to it after Yi Chen persuaded her. However, she set a time limit for Yi Chen. He had to be back before his daughter's birthday. Naturally, Yi Chen agreed to that. The next morning, he rejected his family's escort and boarded the cruise to Kyushu with his passport and other relevant documents. His identity became a tourist to Nagasaki. Even though it was about to be winter, however, that did not stop the tourists from traveling, especially to Japan. As soon as Yi Chen stepped onto the cruise, he heard countless people sharing their purpose of going to Japan. "We're getting married, so we're going to Hokkaido for our honeymoon. I can die in peace if I can tour Hokkaido for a week and see the snowy plains and the lavender fields in Furano. It's almost winter. The cherry blossoms on Mount Fuji must be even more beautiful, right?" While Yi Chen was smiling, he realized that there were many cultivators on the cruise. These people were dressed no different from ordinary people. Some of them looked serious, some of them were talking and laughing, and some of them were looking around curiously. He secretly shook his head and found his seat. Before he could get close, two young men in suits blocked his way. "Brat, you're not allowed to pass. My seat is over there." "Excuse me." Yi Chen frowned slightly. The young man in the lead did not move at all. He said expressionlessly, "We've booked our seats at the back. Go and change your ticket." "I'll say it again. Move." The smile on Yi Chen's face gradually disappeared. At that moment, a cold voice was heard. "Luo Tian, Luo Di, step back. Let this gentleman come here." "Yes." The two young men responded and retreated to the side respectfully. Yi Chen looked in the direction of the voice and saw two young men sitting opposite him. One of them had sharp eyebrows, starry eyes, and an extraordinary aura. Meanwhile, the other was extremely handsome and slightly heroic. His crystal-like eyes were extremely lively. People from the cultivation world. Moreover, they were very powerful. Yi Chen immediately sensed the cultivation base fluctuations on the two of them. He walked to his seat quietly and sat down. When he looked again, he realized that the first 3 rows and the last 3 rows were filled with people from the cultivation world. Moreover, the two young men seemed to be leading them. P.S. I'm still writing the first chapter. Chapter 572. Not long after Yi Chen sat down, the handsome young man coughed. He purposely suppressed his voice and said, "Sir, it's my first time traveling. I'm sorry that my people have offended you due to the lack of discipline. Let's get to know each other. I'm Luo Yao. I'm a man and I like women. This is Tang Jianfeng next to me. You can call him Xiaofeng. As for his hobbies, to be determined." He started introducing himself after saying that. The young man with the surname Tang looked helpless at first. Subsequently, he glanced at Yi Chen calmly and closed his eyes again, as if he did not care about anything. "Yi Chen," Yi Chen said coldly. His gaze was focused on her throat, and his expression was a little strange. He realized that Luo Yao did not have an Adam's apple. She was obviously a woman disguised as a man. "So it's Brother Yi." Luo Yao did not realize that she had been exposed at all. Instead, she asked passionately, "May I know why you're going to Japan this time, Brother Yi? I see that everyone else has their families with them. Some even have girlfriends. Why are you alone?" Yi Chen smiled without saying anything. Seeing that he ignored her, a young man stood up and looked straight at Yi Chen. "What's with your attitude? My little..." Cough, cough, cough. Before he could finish, Luo Yao immediately coughed a few times. After secretly glaring at that person, she scolded with a straight face, "I already told you not to call me young master outside. How many times do I have to remind you?" That person shut up immediately. Yi Chen secretly laughed when he saw all of that. Subsequently, he shook his head and closed his eyes to rest. Luo Yao wanted to talk to him, but when she saw that he had closed his eyes, she could only look at Tang Jianfeng in boredom. Hey, Xiaofeng, we're already out. Can you stop pretending to be cool? I'm being reserved. Tang Jianfeng opened his eyes helplessly. Yes, yes, yes. You're reserved, but you're also pretending to be. Luo Yao chuckled. You're all a bunch of boring people. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have gone with you guys. Xiao Yuanjing is still the most fun. Tang Jianfeng was a little unhappy when he heard the name Xiao Yuanjing. Don't mention him in front of me. This person is very shrewd. I don't like him. I admit that he's scheming, but it's usually this kind of person that girls like. Look at you, you've lived for more than 20 years, but you're still single, while Xiao Yuanjing has countless beauties. Luo Yao said with disdain. The veins on Tang Jianfeng's forehead throbbed. Luo Yao giggled and said, I heard that Japanese women are good at housekeeping. They're gentle and virtuous. Why don't you find one as your girlfriend? I say, can you stop playing with me? If I really bring a Japanese woman back, my father will beat me to death. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Luo Yao supported her chin with her hand and said, but to be honest, it's much easier to get along with you than with Xiao Yuanjing. That guy is always smiling. He's also smiling when he kills people. It's a little scary. At this point, he frowned. The others aren't any better. They think they're superior and don't follow the rules the moment they come out. These people have forgotten what happened decades ago. That's why they're so fearless. Tang Jianfeng shook his head slightly and said, that's why I'd rather travel abroad than stay with them. Out of sight, out of mind. What a pity. Many innocent people are going to be implicated this time. Luo Yao suddenly sighed and said sympathetically, I heard that in just a week, a few wealthy families have been destroyed, and more than 10 powerhouses have died, causing many people to submit. I wonder if the Chinese powerhouses will be able to hold it in. They have to hold it in even if they can't. Even Yang Junlin, who's ranked number 2 on the Heaven leaderboard, was defeated by the Lin family. At the end of the day, the so-called powerhouses in China are still too weak. Tang Jianfeng seemed to feel pity. While the two of them were talking, they did not notice that Yi Chen had already opened his eyes quietly. There was a thoughtful look in his eyes. That might not be the case. Luo Yao seemed to have thought of something and suddenly smiled. Although the number 2 on the Heaven leaderboard has been defeated, isn't there still the number 1 guy? What's his name again? You mean Mad Southern Yi? Tang Jianfeng frowned. Yes, that's him. Luo Yao nodded repeatedly and said, I heard that this person is quite powerful. He has an outstanding record at such a young age. In less than half a year after his debut, he swept through China. He even killed his way into Korea some time ago and suppressed an entire country by himself. At this point, her eyes shone brightly. This person is indeed not bad. Tang Jianfeng nodded slightly and said, he does have some talent to be able to grow to such a level in a place like China. Unfortunately, he can't solve anything by himself. I don't think he's a match for Xiao Yuanjing and the rest. He paused for a moment and said, don't forget that I fought Xiao Yuanjing before. I told him that I could only fight him to a draw. I believe that. Xiao Yuanjing is too shrewd, and he likes to hide himself. No one knows how strong he is. Luo Yao nodded in agreement. Apart from Xiao Yuanjing, there's also Bai Xiaoyu and the rest. Tang Jianfeng's expression froze slightly. These people are too powerful. They've almost suppressed the younger generation. Even some of the older generation pales in comparison to them. I heard that Mad Southern Yi has a grudge against the Bai family. After the Bai family enters the world, Mad Southern Yi's situation will be worrying. Luo Yao shook her head. That's not something we can worry about. Just when Tang Jianfeng was about to say something, he realized that Yi Chen had already opened his eyes and was listening to them. He could not help but say in a deep voice, Brother, there are some things that you shouldn't listen to. Otherwise, it might bring you death. The reason why the two of them were talking openly was because they were surrounded by their own people. As for Yi Chen, he was just an ordinary person. Moreover, he seemed to be asleep earlier, so they did not care much. Now that he realized that Yi Chen seemed to have been listening for a long time, he warned him by instinct. Fatal calamity? Yi Chen smiled lightly. Who can kill me? Who dares to kill me? He had a rough guess about the identities of the two people before him. They were obviously from Shang Santian. He did not take Tang Jianfeng's warning seriously, although he had never fought with the powerhouses of Shang Santian. However, that did not stop him from being confident. So what if Shang Santian was powerful? He was still a human after all, not an immortal. Tang Jianfeng frowned when he saw that Yi Chen ignored his good intentions and said, "You're just an ordinary person after all. You don't understand this world at all. Forget it, there's no point in talking to you. That's all I have to say. I hope you can listen to me." Mr. Yi, Xiaofeng is used to being straightforward. He actually doesn't have any ill intentions. Don't take it to heart. Luo Yao came to his rescue, however. What he said is the truth. No matter what you heard, I suggest that you keep it to yourself. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Alright. Yi Chen smiled and closed his eyes again. Soon, the arrival announcement sounded on the cruise ship. Chapter 573. The cruise ship finally stopped at the port of Nagasaki on Kyushu Island. Nagasaki was quite famous in the world. It was traced back to an atomic bomb that had fallen here in the last century. It had caused a destructive blow within 10 kilometers of Nagasaki. Even after decades, there were still many traces of the explosion. Yi Chen released his divine consciousness after walking out of the cruise ship. He had lived 2 lives, but it was his first time coming to this city. If it wasn't for the Night Devil, it could be said that he would never set foot on this land in his life. However, he only took a few casual glances because his ultimate goal was not Nagasaki, but Fukuoka City, which belonged to the same island as Nagasaki. The two places were almost 200 kilometers apart. Chiba Yoshiko had said over the phone that she and Miyamoto Take were hiding on a small island in Fukuoka City. Nagasaki Port. Luo Yao could not help but mutter after watching Yi Chen leave, "This Mr. Yi is a little unusual. He didn't even greet us before he left. He's just an ordinary person. Why do you pay so much attention to him?" Tang Jianfeng frowned and said. He was not jealous of Yi Chen. After all, to him, there were not many people in this world that he and Luo Yao paid special attention to, let alone Yi Chen, who was an ordinary person to him. The reason why they had interacted on the cruise ship was because they were in a good mood. Luo Yao said thoughtfully, "Didn't you notice that this Mr. Yi has been calm from beginning to end? He's neither servile nor overbearing. Even when facing my subordinates, he's calm." She added at the end of her sentence, "I've only felt such an aura from my father." Are you saying that this person is also from the cultivation world? Tang Jianfeng's expression froze slightly before he shook his head and said, "That shouldn't be possible. Don't forget that my Tang family's cultivation technique is extremely sensitive to aura. Very few people can hide their cultivation base in front of me." Maybe I'm overthinking it. Luo Yao nodded in agreement. A cunning arc appeared in the depths of her eyes. "Do you think he found out that I'm a woman disguised as a man and was too embarrassed to talk to me because he was stunned by my beauty?" Tang Jianfeng looked helpless. "Let's go. Let's eat something first." Shika Island. This is a small island located in the northwest of Fukuoka City. The island is less than 10 kilometers in area. It is famous for its seafood due to its proximity to the sea. Its main business is tourism and fishing. At this moment, a fishing boat was moving very slowly on the sea. The deafening engine startled countless seagulls, and the black smoke drifting out of the boat rose into the sky like a huge chimney. "Master Miyamoto, why isn't Master here yet? I feel like there are a lot of outsiders on the island recently. I wonder if they are from the family. Chiba Yoshiko, dressed as a fisherman, was sitting on the deck. She stretched out a pair of white and flawless feet and played in the water. She deliberately blackened her face with bamboo charcoal, revealing a faint worried and nervous expression. Even so, it was still difficult to conceal her pretty facial features. Beside her stood an old man in a straw cape. The old man's face was haggard, and his complexion was slightly pale. It was obvious that he had suffered internal injuries. If there were outsiders present, they would definitely be shocked to discover that the old man was Miyamoto Take, a swordsman who was famous in Japan and the successor of Sword Saint Miyamoto Musashi. He was only half a step away from becoming a sword saint in Japan. I don't know either. Miyamoto Take sighed faintly in the face of Chiba Yoshiko's worry. An extremely skinny figure could not help but appear in his mind. Back then in Hong Kong, he had been invited by Chiba Yoshiko to cross the ocean to deal with the owner of this figure. At that time, the 5 world powerhouses had joined forces and thought that they could easily kill this person. Unexpectedly, the other party was extremely ferocious. He was like the reincarnation of a god of war, and killed the 4 of them. If he and Chiba Yoshiko had not chosen to submit to him at the crucial moment, they would have been beheaded long ago. That figure had given him too much of a shock. Even after returning to Japan for a few months, he still could not erase it. He was so shocked that he did not dare to rebel even though Yi Chen was not by his side. Instead, he cooperated with Chiba Yoshiko many times to complete the mission that Yi Chen gave her. A few days ago, he had personally led a team to intercept something. He did not expect to encounter an expert that caused the operation to fail. It was even exposed, and Chiba Yoshiko had fallen into the hands of the Chiba family. He was also the one who led Chiba Yoshiko out of the encirclement and hid here after a few turns. Cough, cough, cough. At this point, he could not help but cough violently a few times. His face was flushed. Master Miyamoto, are you all right? Chiba Yoshiko asked anxiously. I'm fine. Miyamoto Take shook his head slightly. Just as he was about to ask, he accidentally caught a glimpse of more than 10 black shadows rushing over from afar. His expression suddenly changed. Ms. Chiba, this is bad. We've been discovered. Chiba Yoshiko followed his gaze and her pretty face turned pale. On the hazy surface of the sea, more than 10 black shadows rushed over like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. In the span of a few breaths, these people were less than 20 steps away from the fishing boat. They looked again. These people were all wearing bamboo hats that covered their faces and bodies tightly. They were silent, and the samurai swords in their hands flickered with a cold gleam, as if they wanted to split the white fog around them. It's ninjas. They're ninjas from my Chiba family. At this moment, Chiba Yoshiko's face was filled with despair. She was born in the Chiba family, so she naturally knew how powerful the ninjas that the Chiba family had secretly nurtured were, especially the dozen or so heaven-class ninjas in front of her. They could kill any martial Dao master. At the next moment, a sinister voice came from afar. My good sister, you really know how to hide. I've spent a lot of effort to find you. As the voice faded, a young man in a black suit slowly walked over from the white fog. The young man's cheekbones were protruding, and he looked extremely ugly. The corner of his lips curled into a cruel arc. Chiba Yoshiko said with a trembling voice, Chiba Masawa, I'm now a traitor of the Chiba family. I'm no longer the heir. Why can't you let me go? Why must you force me? Let you go? Chiba Masawa smirked coldly when he heard that. He touched his ugly face and said, My good sister, I'm afraid you've forgotten, right? Half a year ago, you, the heir of the family, destroyed my face with a whip. How can I not repay you? Chiba Yoshiko was instantly speechless. Half a year ago, she was still the heir of the Chiba family. Her status was noble, and it could be said that she was second to only one person and above tens of thousands of people. She controlled the life and death of countless people, and her cousin, Chiba Masawa, was one of them. The Chiba family had been in business for hundreds of years. There was a clear rule that members of the family were not allowed to take drugs, not even marijuana. However, at that time, Chiba Masawa relied on his relationship as Chiba Yoshiko's cousin to secretly take heroin. He was even suspected of smuggling and drug trafficking. After Chiba Yoshiko investigated, she rewarded him with 80 whips according to the family rules. My good sister, it's useless to say anything now. Come back with me obediently and accept the punishment from the family leader. I advise you not to resist. Chiba Masawa pressed on. Right at that moment, a cold gleam flashed across the sky. Miyamoto Take stood with his saber in his hand. Miss Chiba, you leave first. I'll cover the rear. Cover the rear? Chiba Masawa smirked coldly. Miyamoto Take, do you really think that I didn't predict your existence? I've chosen a good opponent for you. P.S. The first chapter is still updated. I'm writing it. Chapter 574. As soon as Chiba Masawa finished speaking, the surface of the sea in the distance was split open by a saber gleam that was over 10 feet long. Countless waves were sent flying, and a black figure stepped on the broken waves and charged out of the white fog. It was a middle-aged man in a black samurai suit. Whoosh! The middle-aged man landed next to Chiba Masawa and looked at Miyamoto Take expressionlessly. The samurai sword in his hand automatically returned to its sheath, as if it was psychic. Yagyu Take-ken. In order to deal with us, you even invited someone from the Yagyu family. Chiba Yoshiko and Miyamoto Take's expressions changed at the same time. They turned to look at the middle-aged man with respect. Yagyu Take-ken. He was from the Yagyu family of Japan. It was an extremely ancient family. Their status in Japan was even more ancient and noble than the Chiba family. This was because the Yagyu family had produced 3 sword saints in the past. Throughout the history of Japan's swordsmanship, there had only been a total of 6 sword saints. The first was Tsukasahara Buchuan. He was a true sword saint who was born during Japan's Warring States period. He created his own tachi and was known to be undefeated. The second was his disciple, Wizumi Shingang. Compared to his master, Wizumi Shingang was even more outstanding. At a young age, he created the serene sect of swordsmanship and was given the title of number 1 in the world by the shogunate. The third was Yagyu Munio. He was the first sword saint of the Yagyu family. He had once lost to Wizumi Shingang's disciple, Hida Toyogoro. Hence, he joined Shingang's sect. Not long after, he comprehended the secret of swordless takedown and was given the title of Serene Sect's Inku. Yagyu Munio had extraordinary talent. He comprehended a new swordsmanship sect in the Serene sect. In order to distinguish it from the Serene sect, he called it the Yagyu Serene sect. The fourth was Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi was also born during the Edo period of Japan's Warring States period. At a young age, he created his own Yuanming Ryu. Rumor had it that he defeated the Shindang sect's Arima Hideyobushi in his first duel at the age of 13. At the age of 16, he defeated Akiyama, who was known for being tough. At the age of 21, Miyamoto Musashi went to Kyoto and defeated Japan's current swordsman. And the 5th place was Yagyu Jubiai. Compared to the previous few, Yagyu Jubiai could be said to be the strongest swordsman in the history of Japan. He had created the killing god Single Slash and the snow of the world. Yagyu Jubiai, along with his grandfather Yagyu Shikusai Zongyen and his father Yagyu Dansho Zongju, were collectively known as the Yagyu Santengu. The 6th was Yagyu Ida. He was the only sword saint in Japan. This person created the sword heart, sword soul, and sword resolve. He was also the only person in Japan who had comprehended the sword heart, sword soul, and sword resolve. There were a total of 6 sword saints in Japan's history, and the Yagyu family had 3 of them. From this, it could be seen that this ancient family's status and foundation in Japan were enough to make countless people look up to them. Therefore, after seeing Yagyu Teiken appear, Chiba Yoshiko and Miyamoto Take's expressions changed greatly. Although Yagyu Teiken was not a sword saint, he was the most outstanding descendant of the Yagyu family. He had also received guidance from the sword saint Yagyu Ida and was known as the person closest to becoming a sword saint in Japan. Even Miyamoto Take would be overshadowed by him. Miyamoto Take, your ancestor, Miyamoto Musashi, is known as a sword saint. He can be considered to have a long history of learning. I didn't expect you to be willing to be someone else's lackey. Yagyu Teiken stood with his saber in hand and said in disappointment, "Your actions have insulted the dignity of the Japanese swordsmanship. Today, I'll clean up the sect on behalf of the Japanese." Ms. Chiba, looks like the two of us will have to die here today. Miyamoto Take sighed softly. His gaze swept past Chiba Masawa and the dozen or so ninjas from the Chiba family. He did not expect the Chiba family to make such a big fuss in order to capture them. Just the dozen or so heaven-class ninjas from the Chiba family were not something he could deal with, let alone Yagyu Teiken. Under such a heavy encirclement, unless he broke through to the Sword Saint stage, he would not be able to resist at all. However, it was not that easy to break through to the Sword Saint stage. Chiba Yoshiko's face was filled with despair when she heard that. At this point, not to mention the fact that Yi Churn had yet to appear, even if he did, the ninjas from the Chiba family would have to retreat when facing Yagyu Teiken. How could they save her? "My dear sister, do you know what despair is now?" Chiba Masawa laughed out loud and said, "Go, follow my family obediently. Don't worry, I won't kill you. And you, Master Miyamoto, if you're willing to submit to my Chiba family, I might spare your life." Ha 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 ha. Miyamoto Take suddenly laughed out loud. "Chiba Masawa, not to mention you, even that old thing Chiba Izumi wouldn't dare to say that in front of me. Your Chiba family has only a history of over 100 years. The reason why you rose to power is because of the Hitamoto clan. However, my Miyamoto family has more than 500 years of history. When my ancestor, Miyamoto Musashi, ruled Japan, your Chiba family was just a lowly commoner. So you're asking for death?" Chiba Masawa sneered. "What's there to fear about life? What's there to enjoy about death?" Miyamoto Take took a deep breath in. For a qualified swordsman, from the moment he leaves the house with his sword, he no longer cares about life and death, but conquering the world. At this point, he looked at Yagyu Teiken. "Draw your sword, Yagyu Teiken. Everyone ranks my ancestor, Miyamoto Musashi, behind the 3 sword saints of your Yagyu family. Everyone says that my Miyamoto family's Iajutsu can't compare to your Yagyu family's Azura/. I'd like to see it today." "Alright, I'll fulfill your wish." Yagyu Teiken's expression froze slightly. Then, he bowed to Miyamoto Take heavily. This was the most formal etiquette between swordsmen. At the next moment, both of them drew their swords at the same time. Waves surged, cold gleams swept through the sky, and the clouds dispersed. Miyamoto Take took a few steps back, and his hand that was holding the sword trembled slightly. If one took a closer look, they would notice traces of blood slowly dripping down the hilt of the sword to the deck. It was a shocking sight. "You've lost." Yagyu Teiken slowly sheathed his sword. This was the case when experts exchanged blows. There was no great battle, and there was no sword and saber light. There was only the most powerful attack that they could unleash. "Yes, I've lost." Miyamoto Take slowly closed his eyes, his expression bitter. Then, he slowly raised his hand. The katana in his hand was extremely dazzling, and the tip of the katana was pointed at his abdomen. "No. No, Master Miyamoto." Chiba Yoshiko burst into tears. It was rare for swordsmen to fight to the death on the spot. However, the outcome was very cruel. That was because the loser had to commit suicide to defend the dignity of swordsmanship. At this moment there was a sudden clap of thunder in the sky, causing the entire sea to tremble a few times. At the next moment, countless solidified white mist swept over from afar. The white mist filled the sky, as if the sea had become boiling. At the same time, waves of sea waves surged over recklessly. Chiba Masawa was shocked. "What's happening? There's someone in the distance." Yagyu Teiken stared at the end of the sea. Everyone followed his gaze and looked over. They only saw a thin figure wrapped in a monstrous wave surging towards them. P.S. Chapter 2, there's one more chapter. Chapter 575. The waves surged on the vast sea like the roar of a giant dragon. It was as if the entire sea had been flipped over. At that moment, everyone, including Yagyu Teiken and Chiba Masawa, stared blankly at the approaching wave. They were shocked. "What's that?" Chiba Masawa could not help but gulp. Was that a tsunami? It didn't seem like it because even tsunamis did not have such power and commotion. Could Master be here? Chiba Yoshiko, who was already in despair, suddenly had such a thought. However, she immediately extinguished it, because the commotion in front of them was just too shocking. She did not think that a human could do that. "There's someone on the waves." Yagyu Teiken, who had always been conceited and aloof, gasped and mumbled. Even when he defeated Miyamoto Take earlier, he did not have such a huge reaction. The waves were getting closer and closer. In just a few breaths' time, it was less than 100 meters away from everyone. Only then did everyone see clearly. It was a skinny young man in green clothes. He stood with his hands behind his back and stepped on the huge waves as if he was stepping on a giant dragon. The 10-odd heaven-class ninjas that Chiba Masawa brought with him revealed vigilance and wariness in their eyes. They even had goosebumps all over their bodies. At that moment the entire world was dead silent. Everyone stared blankly at the young man. When Chiba Yoshiko and Miyamoto Take saw the young man's appearance, they were stunned at first. Then, their bodies trembled violently, and disbelief appeared on their faces. For a moment they forgot to speak. Who exactly is this person? Deep shock surged in Yagyu Teiken's eyes, making it difficult for him to breathe. It was as if the air had frozen. He thought that he was invincible in the entire Japanese cultivation world below the Sword Saint. However, when he saw that figure, he was as weak and fragile as a baby. Powerhouse. He was definitely a powerhouse. This person's aura was exactly the same as his grandfather's. He took a deep breath in and did not dare to think too much. He immediately took the initiative to welcome the young man who was walking on the wave. When he was less than 10 steps away from the young man, Yagyu Teiken bowed slightly and cupped his fists. "I'm Yagyu Teiken from the Japanese Yagyu family. May I know who you are? Please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." As soon as these words were spoken, Chiba Masawa and the others were stunned. After all, Yagyu Teiken was a member of the Yagyu family. Since when was there a need to be so respectful to outsiders in Japan? "Chiba Masawa, why aren't you bringing your men over to greet the senior? This senior is someone like my grandfather." Seeing that they were stunned, Yagyu Teiken immediately shouted, "This senior is someone like my grandfather." Hearing those words, the expressions of Chiba Masawa and the others changed in unison, and they didn't dare to hesitate in the slightest. They immediately walked over and bowed to the young man with cupped fists while feeling shocked repeatedly in their hearts. Especially Yagyu Teiken. "He looks like an Asian, but I don't know if he's Chinese or someone from Japan. If he's from Japan, why haven't I seen him before?" He had never heard his grandfather mention it. However, he did not dare to ask too many questions. This was because he knew that experts like these usually had strange temperament. If they said something that they shouldn't say and crossed the other party's bottom line, the consequences would be unimaginable. While everyone was secretly trembling, Yi Chen lifted his head to look at Chiba Yoshiko, who was far away. He smiled lightly. "Chiba Yoshiko, how have you been?" As his voice fell, Chiba Masawa, Yagyu Teiken, and the rest were shocked. "Senior, do you know someone from the Chiba family?" Chiba Masawa mustered his courage and lifted his head to look at Yi Chen. He asked carefully. At the same time, his heart slowly sank. If the powerhouse who suddenly appeared in front of them really knew Chiba Yoshiko, wouldn't it mean that they couldn't complete the family's mission? At this moment, a voice mixed with surprise and grievance sounded behind them. Master, you're finally here." Chiba Masawa immediately turned around and saw Chiba Yoshiko looking at the young man in front of her with excitement as if she had seen her savior. Miyamoto Take, who was next to her, was not much better. Boom! Almost at that moment, a bolt out of the blue sounded in Chiba Masawa's mind. It was like a muffled thunder. "A master!" He seemed to have thought of something immediately. He suddenly looked at Yi Chen with deep shock in his eyes. "Why, you're the Chinese powerhouse behind this B***TCH? The Chiba family had roughly found out about Chiba Yoshiko secretly submitting to Yi Chen. However, they only knew that Yi Chen was a Chinese powerhouse who intended to get his hands on the foreign fragment. Even so, the Chiba family did not care at all. To them, there were powerhouses in China, and there were powerhouses in Japan as well. However, what they did not expect was, this Chinese powerhouse had personally descended to Japan to save Chiba Yoshiko. "You're the one who's after Chiba Yoshiko? If I'm not wrong, you people should be from the Thousand Leaves family, right?" Yi Chen lifted his hand and waved to disperse the wave. He landed on the water and walked toward Chiba Masawa step by step with his hands behind his back. "Kill him!" Almost at that moment, Chiba Masawa's expression changed drastically several times, and he suddenly issued a kill order to the dozen or so ninjas behind him. At the next moment, the ninjas disappeared from where they were instantly. In the next breath, they appeared before Yi Chen. They had been raised by the Chiba family since they were young. It was not an exaggeration to describe them as death warriors. Even after knowing how terrifying Yi Chen was, they were still fearless. And at that moment, Chiba Masawa and Yagyu Teiken ran toward Chiba Yoshiko instead, as if they wanted to use this opportunity to capture her. How dare a firefly compete with the moon? Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He passed through the bodies of the ninjas and stood in front of Chiba Yoshiko. Chiba Masawa immediately looked like he had seen a ghost. As the entire process was too fast, he subconsciously turned around to take a look. The dozen or so heaven-class ninjas that he brought with him remained standing still. In the next second, they exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Yagyu Teiken was no exception. All the hair on his body stood on end. He was too powerful. Such a person was definitely one of the best in China. At the next moment, the two of them knelt before Yi Chen directly. There was deep fear on their faces. "Spare me, senior, spare me." Before such a person, they had given up the thought of resisting. On the other hand, Chiba Yoshiko and Miyamoto Take seemed to have been petrified. They did not expect the dozen or so heaven-class ninjas from the Chiba family, who could kill any martial Dao master, to be killed in an instant before Yi Chen. They did not even manage to scream. On the other hand, Yagyu Teiken, the genius of the Yagyu family who had defeated Miyamoto Take with a single strike earlier, knelt on the deck as if he was scared out of his wits. Chapter 576. Chiba Yoshiko greets Master. Chiba Yoshiko finally snapped back to her senses when she saw Chiba Masawa and Yagyu Teiken kneeling on the ground, trembling. The two of them knelt before Yi Chen immediately. Miyamoto Take knelt on the ground as well. Miyamoto Take greets Master. If one took a closer look, they would realize that their eyes were filled with shock and fanaticism. It was fanaticism toward Yi Chen. Especially Chiba Yoshiko. She thought that she was dead for sure earlier. Never had she thought that Yi Chen would come on the waves and kill more than 10 heaven-class ninjas from the Chiba family in the blink of an eye. Subsequently, he scared Chiba Masawa and Yagyu Teiken out of their wit. Yi Chen smiled lightly. What should we do with these two? As soon as he said that, Chiba Masawa, who was kneeling on the ground, could not help but look at Chiba Yoshiko. He begged, "Sister, my good sister, can you let me go? I'm only following orders. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to be your dog." "I'm willing, master, Chiba Masawa must die." However, Chiba Yoshiko's face was cold, and her eyes revealed endless killing intent and hatred. "Chiba Yoshiko, you be *tch. Chiba Masawa's body trembled, and he immediately cursed viciously. "The family won't let you off. You will, bang." Before he could finish his words, his entire body was split into two halves by a single palm strike. "Shut up." Yi Chen retracted his hand slowly and looked at Yagyu Teiken coldly again. What should we do with this one? This move of his caused everyone to be shocked. Decisive, overbearing, indifferent to life and death. Those words appeared in their minds almost at the same time, causing Yi Chen's image to rise to an unimaginable level in their hearts. Yagyu Teiken felt a chill inside when he sensed Yi Chen's cold gaze. He wanted to speak by instinct, but he heard Chiba Yoshiko say, "Master, Yagyu Teiken is from the Yagyu family. You can't kill him." "Why?" Yi Chen raised his brows. Chiba Yoshiko took a deep breath in and said slowly, "The Yagyu family is a wealthy family in Japan. They have an ancient history. If you kill him, you'll offend the entire Yagyu family." "Not bad." Miyamoto Take nodded in agreement. "Master, you might not know this, but the Yagyu family has produced 3 sword saints. The current sword saint, Yagyu Ida, is the only sword saint in Japan. This person has a supreme status in Japan. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe him as the leader of the pugilistic world in the Central Plains. To them, although Yi Chen was powerful, how could he fight a wealthy family like the Yagyu family in Japan? Not to mention Sword Saint Yagyu Ida, who had hidden his sword for 50 years. Is that so? Yi Chen lifted his head and looked at Yagyu Teiken. Meeting his gaze, Yagyu Teiken subconsciously nodded and said, "That's right. Senior, my ancestor is Sword Saint Yagyu Ida. Once you kill me, not only will you have to bear the wrath of my Yagyu family, but it will also cause my ancestor to take action." Bang! A smear of scarlet blood splattered on Chiba Yoshiko's face. When she looked again, Yagyu Teiken, who was kneeling on the ground, was split into 2, just like Chiba Masawa. It was a ghastly sight. At that moment, Chiba Yoshiko and Miyamoto Take were stunned. Never had they thought that Yi Chen would dare to kill Yagyu Teiken after knowing his background. Yi Chen shook his head calmly and said, "So be it. When have I, Yi Chen, ever been threatened by anyone in my life? If it was China, he might not have killed so wantonly. However, this was Japan." At that moment, 2 black streams of light suddenly emerged from Chiba Masawa and Yagyu Teiken's split corpses. The black streams of light shot towards the sky at high speed. "Master, this is bad. The god in their bodies has gone back to inform us." Chiba Yoshiko and Miyamoto Take's expressions changed when they saw that. Yi Chen frowned. "God?" As if sensing his confusion, Chiba Yoshiko hurriedly explained, "Master, you might not know this, but the Japanese cultivation world is mainly divided into 2 systems, the Sword Dao and the God Dao. The Sword Dao is the most primitive cultivation method, which is a swordsman like Master Miyamoto." At this point, she paused for a moment and continued, "As for the Shinto sect, it's a system that focuses on incense to become a god and controlling spirit bodies to fight against enemies. The Yin-Yang Masters of Japan are the embodiment of the Shinto sect, and the Shikigami refers to the spirit bodies that are under the orders of the Yin-Yang Masters." "Doesn't the Yagyu family practice the Sword Dao?" Yi Chen said. To put it bluntly, this so-called God Dao was the art of raising ghosts and controlling ghosts. Theoretically, yes. Chiba Yoshiko said slowly. However, after so many years of development, the cultivation system of Japan has been subtly integrated. Many sword Dao families have chosen to cooperate with the god Dao families. From what I know, the Yagyu family is backed by one of the 4 yin-yang master families, the Abe family, and the Chiba family is backed by one of the 4 yin-yang master families, the Hitamoto clan. Miyamoto said in a deep voice. Chiba Yoshiko took a deep breath in and said with a bitter smile, "Master, that means you've offended the 4 super forces of Japan." To her, just the Chiba family alone was a colossus, let alone the other 3 forces. So what? Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back. His gaze was as cold as a knife. "I've come to Japan with my sword this time. Those who go against me will die." He was determined to get the night demon. For that, he did not hesitate to kill. After saying that, he looked at Chiba Yoshiko. "Tell me the details of what I want you to find out." Chiba Yoshiko did not explain clearly on the phone earlier. This woman was indeed the former successor of the Chiba family. After knowing that she was in danger, she did not dare to reveal everything. She was worried that Yi Chen would not care about her life after finding out. Chiba Yoshiko did not dare to hesitate and immediately told him what she knew. It turned out that ever since she returned to Japan from Hong Kong that day, she had secretly used the power in her hands to inquire about the whereabouts of the other foreign fragments. After more than a month, she found out that the remaining foreign fragments had all fallen into the hands of the 4 yin-yang master clans. In particular, the largest fragment was held by the 4 yin-yang master clans. The 4 forces used all sorts of methods to study the foreign fragments, but they did not make any progress. In the end, they decided to move it. After Chiba Yoshiko received the news, she sent people to intercept and snatch it. Unexpectedly, the 4 forces sent powerhouses to escort them, causing the plan to fail. Only Miyamoto managed to escape. Chiba Yoshiko's plan was exposed, and she was hunted down by the Chiba family. Yi Chen frowned slightly after hearing that. "Are you saying that the remaining foreign fragments are in the hands of the 4 yin-yang master clans?" "They were indeed in their hands before, but I don't know where they were moved to. What I'm sure of is that the 4 yin-yang master clans and my Chiba family definitely know where they are," Chiba Yoshiko said immediately. Yi Chen shook his head. "Let's go." Chiba Yoshiko could not react for a moment. "Master, where are we going?" "Of course, accompany me to your Chiba family." Chapter 577. Although Yi Chen's words were very calm, Yi Chen's heart was filled with fear. However, Chiba Yoshiko sensed a cold, killing intent from him. It was this killing intent that made her not dare to disrespect Yi Chen at all. Even after Yi Chen offended the 4 super forces of Japan at the same time, she did not dare to resist although she was afraid. She knew that from the moment she was hunted by the Chiba family, the entire Japan could no longer tolerate her. She and Yi Chen were equivalent to grasshoppers on a rope. After Yi Chen performed a fireball tactic to burn Chiba Masawa and Yagyu Taken's bodies, he rushed to the Chiba residence in downtown Fukuoka under Chiba Yoshiko's lead. Almost at the moment they set off, in a mansion hundreds of miles away in Tokyo, there was a room that looked like an altar. It was filled with all kinds of sandalwood plaques, and all kinds of names were written on them. Pa! At that moment, a wooden sign with the words Yagyu Taken written on it suddenly exploded at the center of the altar. Plop! This sudden scene scared the old man on duty so much that he collapsed to the ground on the spot. Then, the old man got up and hurriedly ran out of the house. "Not good! Not good! Young Master Wu Jian is dead." At the same time, in the Chiba family, in a spacious room, the aroma of wine filled the air. All the upper echelons of the Chiba family took off their shoes and knelt in front of the table. They looked respectfully at a middle-aged man in hunting clothes and a black hat. The middle-aged man had a mustache, and there was a cinnabar dot between his eyebrows. He closed his eyes to rest, as if he was asleep. His eyebrows exuded a power that made one's heart palpitate. Many people would occasionally look at him with respect because he was Hitamoto Jiro, the disciple of the Hitamoto clan, one of the four great Yin-Yang master clans. At the same time, he was also a high-level Yin-Yang master. Below Hitamoto Jiro sat a white-haired old man in a plain kimono. The old man looked to be in his 80s. His skin was dark yellow, and his face was covered in wrinkles. He looked like an old man with one foot in the grave. However, the entire Chiba family trembled in front of him because the old man was the true soul of the Chiba family, Chiba Izumi. At that moment, Hitamoto Jiro, who was sitting at the head of the table, opened his eyes and slowly looked at Chiba Izumi. Patriarch Chiba, it's been an hour since Chiba Masawa sent the news, right? Is there still no results? My time is limited, I don't have the time to waste here with you. Chiba Izumi's expression froze and he immediately said, Sir Jiro, please wait patiently. Perhaps Masawa is already on his way back. I'll order someone to contact him now. After saying that, he gave the people around him a look. The other party nodded slightly. Just as he was about to take out his phone to contact someone, the door of the room was suddenly knocked open by a strange gust of wind. Then, a black shadow shot into Hitamoto Jiro's hand. There's no need to contact him. Hitamoto Jiro's expression changed. He suddenly stood up and said, The god I left on Chiba Masawa told me that he's dead. As soon as he said that, everyone in the room was shocked. Masawa is dead? Chiba Izumi was slightly stunned. Then, he said in disbelief, That's impossible. Before Masawa left, he took away more than 10 heaven-class ninjas that the Chiba family had nurtured for decades. He even had Yagyu-taken's help. Who else can kill him? The rest of the Chiba family members were shocked as well. The Chiba family had been keeping a low profile and growing stronger all these years. Among them, the 18 heaven-class ninjas were the most feared by outsiders. These people had undergone devilish training since they were young, and they were extremely proficient in assassination, poisoning, and other professional skills. Even a martial Dao master would have to retreat when the 18 of them worked together. How could they fail? Furthermore, they had the help of the most outstanding genius of the Yagyu family, Yagyu-taken. One had to know that Yagyu-taken was the person closest to the Sword Saint stage. Meanwhile, Chiba Yoshiko only had Miyamoto-take's help. A mere Miyamoto-take could not do that at all. That's the truth. For the first time, anger appeared on Hitamoto Jiro's calm expression. The god told me that not only is Chiba Masawa dead, even Yagyu-taken is dead. Furthermore, he died in the hands of a Chinese young man. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire room was in an uproar. Chiba Masawa was not the only one dead. Even Yagyu-taken was dead. Moreover, he died in the hands of a Chinese young man. How was that possible? Even Chiba Izumi, who was over 70 years old, could not help but say angrily, Who exactly is this person? How dare he offend both the Chiba family and the Yagyu family at the same time? That's your business. Hitamoto Jiro smirked coldly. To prevent the 4 Yin-Yang master family's plan from being leaked, Chiba Yoshiko and that Chinese powerhouse must die. Otherwise, everyone in the Chiba family will commit suicide and hand over their souls to Lord Soul Eater. Hearing the words Lord Soul Eater, Chiba Izumi's body trembled violently. He hurriedly stood up and said, Don't worry, Sir Jiro. Even if the Chiba family has to fight to the last man, we will complete the mission. Just as he finished speaking, a member of the Chiba family stumbled in his wooden clogs and fell to the ground with a thud. He stammered, And master, Ms. Chiba brought her people to fight back. What? How dare you? All the members of the Chiba family in the room stood up with anger on their faces. It was the first time in the 100 years that the Chiba family had been in Japan that someone dared to attack them. They were simply looking down on them. Hee. Hitamoto Jiro, on the other hand, drank a glass of wine calmly and said with a faint smile, It's obvious that the Chinese powerhouse is here. That's good too. Chiba Izumi felt that he had never been angry in decades, but today, he could not help but be angry. I wanted to look for him, but he came to me instead. He shouted, "Where are the 4 ghosts of Japan?" At the next moment, the space around him distorted, and then 4 black figures suddenly appeared behind him like ghosts. Every single one of them was dressed in black, from head to toe. There was no other color. As they appeared, the entire room fell silent. Even the smile on Hitamoto Jiro's face gradually darkened. He could not help but say, "Are these the real trump cards of the Chiba family, the 4 ghosts of Japan?" Rumor had it that there was an outstanding person in the Chiba family's ancestor. In order to pursue the legendary art of immortality, he created the theory of dismemberment. The so-called dismemberment was to separate a person's soul from the corpse and then build a temple to worship the soul, allowing the soul to enjoy incense for life and never be destroyed. This method was extremely cruel and painful. First, it was the pain of the soul being separated. After the soul was separated, it had to take the initiative to destroy its consciousness. The stronger the willpower of a person when they were alive, the more powerful their energy would be after dismemberment. Of course, the failure rate would also be higher. Back then, the ancestor of the Chiba family used hundreds of people as experiments, and only 4 people succeeded. These 4 people were called the 4 ghosts of Japan. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'm writing it now. I won't miss it. Chapter 578. Outside the Chiba family. At this moment it was filled with a dense crowd. All of these people held weapons in their hands as they looked at the young man and woman in front of them with vigilance and hatred. Especially that ordinary-looking, skinny young man. It was this young man who had shocked them greatly. He had charged into the Chiba family alone like a crazy demon. Countless elites of the Chiba family had been mobilized, but they were all killed by him alone. The ground was covered with blood and corpses. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. It proved that what they saw was not an illusion. As the young man took a step forward, the crowd let out a cry in unison and could not help but take a few steps back. Was this young man a demon? A demon that had returned from hell? When everyone retreated to the entrance of the Chiba family's villa and had nowhere to retreat to, a high-ranking member of the Chiba family could not help but say angrily, "Who exactly are you? Why did you help the evildoer kill the people of my Chiba family wantonly?" He looked at Yi Chen with fear and anger in his eyes. Those who died were the elites of the Chiba family. After this, the Chiba family might not be able to recover. Facing his accusation, Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back and said extremely coldly, "I'm here to visit the Chiba family today. Please come out and meet me, master of the Chiba family." "Bastard!" The upper echelon of the Chiba family said angrily, "You've killed so many people of my Chiba family, yet you still want to see the patriarch? You're just daydreaming." He could not help but look at Chiba Yoshiko behind Yi Chen as he spoke to this point. His eyes were filled with resentment. "Yoshiko, you traitor! Can you bear to watch this man kill your former clansman?" As his voice fell, the countless members of the Chiba family standing behind him looked at Chiba Yoshiko with their eyes wide open. If looks could kill, Chiba Yoshiko would have died countless times. "Fourth uncle," Chiba Yoshiko sneered, "the reason why the Chiba family is in this state today is because the family abandoned me first. From the moment the family hunted me down, I was no longer a member of the Chiba family. You are no longer my clansmen or relatives, but enemies. Since they're enemies, what's there to talk about?" After saying that, her eyes were filled with hatred. "Besides, my good fourth uncle, don't keep talking about the family. Do you really think I don't know why the successors of the Chiba family before me mysteriously disappeared? You. The expression of the Chiba family's upper echelon changed. Chiba Yoshiko's face was filled with endless mockery. Grandfather announced his abdication 20 years ago, and the position of the Chiba family head has been vacant until now. During this period there were several successors, but all of them disappeared. The reply given by the family was either a sudden death or a mission. Do you really think I'm so gullible? If I'm not mistaken, these people who disappeared did not die suddenly or went out to carry out a mission. Instead, they died. Furthermore, they were used by you as livestock sacrifices to pay homage to the high and mighty Lord Soul Eater. As soon as those words were spoken, countless people went into an uproar. They all looked at the upper echelon of the Chiba family in shock, their eyes filled with disbelief. They were also extremely curious about this matter. They did not expect Chiba Yoshiko to say such an incomparably cruel version. The expression of the upper echelon of the Chiba family changed drastically, and he denied, "No, she's lying. Don't believe her, don't believe her." This was the Chiba family's secret. The Chiba family recognized the Hitamoto clan as their master, so they naturally had to respect the god that the Hitamoto clan worship. That god's taste was extremely strange, and he liked the souls of virgins. Therefore, the Hitamoto clan had to choose a few virgins from their subordinates to sacrifice every year. It doesn't matter if I'm lying or not. Chiba Yoshiko could not help but sneer. Instead of being played by you like a monkey and deceived by you like an animal, why should I care about your feelings? Now that I'm following Master, at least Master treats me like a human. Yoshiko, you actually have the face to come back. Right at this moment, an extremely gloomy voice came from behind everyone. The crowd immediately dispersed to the sides, making a wide path. Subsequently, an old man in his 80s in a plain kimono led a few people over slowly. The old man's hawk-like gaze made no one dare to look him in the eye. Behind him was Hitamoto Jiro from the Hitamoto clan. If it was in the past, Chiba Yoshiko would definitely be trembling in fear before Chiba Izumi. However, with Yi Chen by her side today, she looked at Chiba Izumi fearlessly. "Grandpa, I only want to take back what belongs to me today." "What belongs to you?" Chiba Izumi could not help but sneer. "Your blood, your flesh, everything you have was given to you by the family. How can you talk about what belongs to you?" "Yes, the position of the family head is mine." Chiba Yoshiko took a deep breath in and said, "You deliberately promoted me to the successor of the family, but you didn't clarify my position. Your goal was to use me as a sacrifice to Lord Soul Eater. You lied to me. Tell me, don't you owe me this?" "I can't be bothered to talk to you." Chiba Izumi scoffed coldly and looked at Yi Chen. He said while scrutinizing him, "Since you killed Masawa and Yaguteiken, I'm sure you're not a nobody in China. Tell me your name. Let me know who dares to barge into my Chiba family." "I'm Mad Southern Yi from China." Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back as he met everyone's gaze. His extremely cold voice shook the entire place. "I'm here today to ask for something from the Chiba family head." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone, including Chiba Izumi, was stunned. They could not react to who Mad Southern Yi was. A few seconds later, a member of the Chiba family inhaled sharply. He looked at Yi Chen in disbelief and said, "Why, you're the China #1, El Mad Southern Yi." The moment that was said, everyone was in an uproar. A trace of shock surged out of Chiba Izumi's calm expression. The China #1, Mad Southern Yi. Even though he was far away in Japan, he couldn't be more familiar with these words. This was because these words represented a series of shocking achievements, as well as endless slaughter and bloodshed. If he was already like that, how could the other members of the Chiba family be so arrogant? At that moment, their faces were filled with extreme shock and disbelief. Chiba Yoshiko saw the expressions on everyone's faces, and a hint of pride could not help but appear on her pretty face. "This is my Chiba Yoshiko's master, a man who could cause a stir wherever he went." Just as everyone was in shock, they heard an extremely cold laughter coming from the side. "What bullsh *T China #1. It's just an undeserved reputation. We don't care if you dominate China, but you're courting death if you dare to come to Japan. P.S. Today's update for the third chapter has been completed. I'll continue tomorrow. Thank you for your support. Please give me recommendation votes and monthly vote. At the same time, thank you very much for your tips. Chapter 579. What Bullsh T number 1 in China? I think it's just an undeserved title. We don't care if you rule over China, but you're courting death if you dare to come to Japan. Following the sudden sound of this voice, the stunned crowd immediately came to their senses. Immediately after, a middle-aged man in hunting clothes and a black hat slowly walked out from behind Chiba Izumi. The middle-aged man was Hitamoto Jiro. However, at that moment, he had a playful look on his face, as if he was disdainful. It's Master Jiro. I didn't expect Master Jiro from the Hitamoto clan to be here as well. Greetings, Master Jiro. With the appearance of Hitamoto Jiro, the surrounding crowd was shocked, and their eyes were filled with unconcealable fanaticism. Not for anything else. Just the 3 words Hitamoto clan were enough to excite people. In Japan, yin-yang masters had the highest status. At that moment, Chiba Yoshiko, who was next to Yi-Chen, had a drastic change of expression. She said to Yi-Chen by instinct, "Master, his name is Hitamoto Jiro. He's the proud disciple of the Hitamoto clan's master. At the same time, he's also a profound yin-yang master. It is said that he has 3 shikigami, each of which is powerful enough to kill any powerhouse below the Sword Saint level. This person once commanded 3 shikigami to escape from a powerhouse who was as powerful as a Sword Saint. At this point, her face was extremely pale. Before she came, she thought that she knew the Chiba family's strength well enough. With the death of more than 10 heaven-class ninjas, no one in the entire Chiba family was Yi-Chen's match. Unexpectedly, a proud disciple of the Hitamoto clan master had appeared. For a moment, her heart slowly sank. As soon as she finished introducing herself, Hitamoto Jiro glanced at her in a creepy manner. Eventually, he fixed his gaze on Yi-Chen. His gaze was extremely sinister. Chiba Izumi, I think you're getting more and more timid as you get older. Is this kid enough to scare you? Moreover, if he says he's Mad Southern Yi, does that mean he's Mad Southern Yi? The moment that was said, Chiba Izumi immediately reacted. He could not help but sneer. Brat, you said that you're Mad Southern Yi. How can you prove it? I am who I am, why do I need proof? Yi-Chen scoffed and took a step forward. He, Yi-Chen, had once ascended to the Heavenly Emperor stage. He ruled the heavens and suppressed hundreds of races. He had countless battle generals. Since when did he need to explain or prove anything to anyone? What's more, they were facing a group of mortals. Even if we take 10,000 steps back, so what if you're really the number 1 person in China who was in the limelight recently, Mad Southern Yi? Hitamoto Jiro licked his lips and smirked coldly at Yi-Chen. This is Japan, not China. The powerhouses of Japan are not something that China can compare to. I suddenly want to know what kind of expression the Chinese dogs will have when they find out that their so-called number 1 person died in Japan. After saying that, he suddenly shouted, Chiba Izumi, what are you waiting for? Quickly kill this person and capture Chiba Yoshiko to make amends for your Chiba family. Chiba Izumi's face was covered with a ruthless expression. Then, he roared, where are the 4 ghosts of Japan? The next moment, 4 ghost-like shadows appeared silently behind him. From afar, they looked like his shadows. The temperature of the entire Chiba family villa seemed to have dropped by dozens of degrees. Evil, rotten, bloody ghosts? Yi-Chen's expression froze slightly. Subsequently, he shook his head and said, No, they're not ghosts. They look more like soul devourers. Interesting. Ghosts were different from soul devourers. Ghosts were products of death. Most of them did not have any consciousness when they were alive. Apart from scaring people, they had no attack power at all. Although soul devourers had no consciousness, They could devour ghosts and even devour the souls and flesh of humans. Mortals could not resist them at all. 4 ghosts of Japan? Seeing the 4 shadows that suddenly appeared before her, Chiba Yoshiko seemed to have recalled something terrifying. She looked at Chiba Izumi abruptly. See, could the rumors in the family be true? She had accidentally learned from an old man in the Chiba family that apart from being able to mobilize all the elites of the Chiba family, the family heads also possessed a mysterious force. It was this mysterious force that ensured the family's supreme status in the Chiba family. This mysterious force was the 4 ghosts of Japan. These 4 people only obeyed the orders of the family head and were extremely mysterious. She was not the only one. The other members of the Chiba family were also shocked. Clearly, they did not expect the family to have such a hidden force. Yoshiko, I told you that you don't understand the family. Chiba Izumi smirked coldly when he met Chiba Yoshiko's gaze. It's too late for you to regret it now. Wait to be punished by the family. Chiba Yoshiko's body trembled violently when she heard that, and she almost lost her balance. Brat, I don't care if you're mad Southern Yi or not, but you've killed so many people from my family today. You must die. Chiba Izumi glared at Yi-chan fiercely and ordered, 4 ghosts of Japan, kill him. His soul belongs to you. Whoosh, 4 black shadows turned into a black screen and charged at Yi-chan like dark clouds that covered the sky. Black energy rumbled and surged, and the murderous aura was oppressive. A black cat happened to pass by and was swept by the black screen. In the next second, a corpse appeared on the ground. Countless people shuddered subconsciously, and their faces were filled with shock. They felt like they had fallen into an ice cellar. It was cold, bone-piercing, and their scalps were numb. You want to kill me with just 4 soul devourers? Yi-chan scoffed coldly. He lifted his hand and swept Chiba Yoshiko, who was next to him, far away. Subsequently, he grabbed at the air around him, and a saber gleam that was about 3 meters long condensed in his palm. Break! He slashed at the black energy that was rapidly approaching him. The saber gleam instantly doubled in size. It was like a bolt from the blue, causing everyone to close their eyes subconsciously. The 10-meter-long saber chi sliced through the sky and slashed at the black energy like lightning. However, this saber strike only cut a hole in the black energy that seemed to cover the sky. On the other hand, the saber chi did not slow down at all. It directly slashed at the place where Chiba Izumi and the rest were. For a moment, screams rang out. Many members of the Chiba family were cut into 2 on the spot after being hit by the saber chi. In the end, the door of the Chiba family's villa was cut into 2. Then, the black curtain closed once again. It was as if it was not harmed at all. Hitamoto Jiro sneered when he saw that. The Japanese king's god Tao style controlled spirit bodies. No matter how powerful a martial artist of flesh and blood was, they would be helpless before a spirit body. This was because they were not physical. Even if they were scattered, they could reassemble. On the contrary, the vital energy and blood of a martial artist of flesh and blood was a great tonic for a spirit body. It was no different from a miracle pill. Chiba Izumi did not seem to notice that Yi-chan had killed the member of the Chiba family with a single slash. Instead, he laughed out loud and said, "What bullsh *T China number 1? That's all I can see. It's a pity that you're going to die here today." Master. Chiba Yoshiko's expression changed drastically. She did not expect Yi-chan's slash to be so powerful. It could not harm the 4 ghosts of Japan at all. Oh, is that so? Yi-chan's expression remained the same. Instead, joy appeared in his eyes. I was just worried that the weapon in my hand lacks an artifact spirit. Since you've taken the initiative to deliver it to me, I'll accept it. Chapter 580. He welcomed Yi-chan's smile. Chiba Izumi suddenly felt uneasy. He could not help but say subconsciously, "Don't tell me you still have some tricks up your sleeves?" At the same time, the black screen that the 4 ghosts of Japan transformed into attacked Yi-chan again. Yi-chan did not say anything. 2 balls of golden flames flashed in his eyes. The flames grew stronger and stronger. In the end, the golden flames turned into a bolt of golden lightning that shot out of his eyes. Slash. Almost at that moment, the golden lightning struck the black screen formed by the 4 ghosts of Japan. 4 screams of pain immediately came from the black screen. Subsequently, the entire black screen retreated a few meters. Even Yi Chen's slash that killed countless people earlier did not cause any harm to them. However, they retreated at that moment. It was as if they had encountered a natural enemy. How is this possible? The ferocious smile on Chiba Izumi's face froze, and it was replaced by deep shock. Hitamoto Jiro, who was watching the show, had a change of expression. He actually repelled the 4 ghosts of Japan? One had to know the strength of the 4 ghosts of Japan. Even as the proud disciple of the Hitamoto clan's master, he had to summon 2 gods at the same time to deal with them. The rest were not much better. Their faces were filled with disbelief. What was that golden lightning just now? Chiba Izumi broke out in cold sweat after he snapped back to his senses. He ordered again, 4 ghosts of Japan, kill him, kill. Before he could finish, Yi Chen advanced instead of retreating. Yi Chen did not retreat. Instead, he took a step forward. The black screen that had retreated a few meters away also retreated. It was no longer as fearless as before. Where do you think you're going? The golden flames in Yi Chen's eyes soared again. 2 bolts of golden lightning shot out dazzlingly again. At the same time, powerful divine consciousness shrouded from his mudball palace and attacked the black screen. Slash. Roar! One of the golden lightning bolts immediately struck the black screen, and screams came from inside again. The black screen subconsciously wanted to retreat, but to his surprise, another golden lightning bolt struck from behind. Unable to escape, the black screen began to shrink rapidly. Eventually, it turned into 4 black shadows. However, their bodies were much dimmer. They roared at Yi Chen in fear. Stubborn fool! Yi Chen scoffed coldly. 2 bolts of golden lightning shot out dazzlingly again. At the same time, he performed hand seals with both hands and shouted, Rubik's Ghost Universe, Nether Spirit, slay the 3 corpses, vanquish the 5 souls. In that instant, the figures of the 4 Japanese ghosts trembled incessantly, revealing looks of struggle on their faces. At the next moment, they exploded simultaneously, turning into 4 red shadows. This series of unforeseen events happened in the blink of an eye. When everyone came back to their senses, they discovered that the 4 Japanese ghosts had undergone a huge transformation. Their bodies had shrunk tremendously, and they now had ox horns and human bodies. Their bodies emitted a dark red light, and their eyes flickered with madness. At the same time, traces of hostility enveloped the surroundings. What's going on? Chiba Izumi had never seen such a scene before. He hurriedly shouted, 4 ghosts of Japan, kill him! Kill him! However, the 4 ghosts of Japan remained motionless. It was as if he hadn't heard anything. 4 ghosts of Japan, do you dare to defy my orders? Chiba Izumi's expression changed drastically, and the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Yi Chen interrupted him, stop shouting. From now on, I'm their master. After saying that, he suddenly shouted, where are the demon blood guards? At the next moment, the 4 ghosts of Japan, who were still motionless earlier, moved and knelt on one knee before Yi Chen. Whoosh! Everyone was in an uproar when they saw that. The mysterious power that the Chiba family had nurtured, the 4 ghosts of Japan, had betrayed them? They had sided with Yi Chen, their enemy? Chiba Izumi could no longer hide the shock on his face. He glared at Yi Chen furiously. Brat, what did you do to them? Ever since the 4 ghosts of Japan were born, such a situation had never happened. On the other hand, Hitamoto Jiro's expression gradually turned grim. His gaze was extremely serious. Even he realized that something was wrong. Yi Chen smiled coldly when he met everyone's gaze. They are no longer called the Four Ghosts of Japan, but the Demon Blood Guards. I want to thank you for giving me this great gift. In the cultivation world, there was a type of abnormality called demons. To ordinary people, demons referred to people who did all kinds of evil, but to cultivators, the so-called demons referred to ferocious gods and evil spirits that destroyed cultivation. Such an existence would terrify any cultivator because they were invisible, colorless, and formless. They could transform into anything, and they could even walk into the depths of a person's heart and become evil thoughts, which would then trigger the cultivator's inner demons. It could be said to be impossible to guard against. The so-called Four Ghosts of Japan were actually soul devourers, and soul devourer was the best tool to refine demon generals. Initially, he thought that things like soul devourers that were not tolerated by the heavenly Tao only appeared in the cultivation world. He did not expect that there would be such things on Earth as well, and the Chiba family had somehow created them as their trump card. Of course, the demons that were refined in front of him were only of the lowest level. Even so, they were more than enough to deal with a group of mortals. Chiba Izumi, in return, I can show you how powerful they are. Yichun pointed at Chiba Izumi and the rest as he thought to this point, demon blood guards, kill them. As soon as he said that, the four demon blood guards turned into four red shadows and pounced at Chiba Izumi and the rest. Their bodies were like lightning and they were even faster than before. Get lost! A powerhouse from the Chiba family subconsciously slashed at a demon blood guard. Unexpectedly, the blade in his hand corroded into pieces the moment it entered the demon blood guard's body. That person was shocked. He subconsciously wanted to retreat, but to his surprise, the demon blood guard pounced on him. Kacha kacha, following a series of chewing sounds and screams, a set of white bones and a Japanese man's attire appeared on the ground. Seeing this scene, the people on the side could not help but reveal a horrified expression. They pushed and shoved each other in an attempt to escape the scene, but how could they outrun the four demon blood guards? Such a scene appeared in an instant. The four red monsters pounced into the crowd, and anyone who was hit by them was immediately scared out of their wit. Even their bodies and flesh were devoured completely. Even Chiba Yoshiko, who was an outsider, could not help but turn pale. Get lost. When a demon blood guard pounced at Chiba Izumi, a black aura suddenly appeared in front of him. The black aura turned into a huge head that looked like a dog's head. The black dog head bared its teeth at the demon blood guard, and the demon blood guard roared at it as if it had encountered a great enemy. God! Seeing this, Chiba Yoshiko immediately said, Master, this is his god, the dog god. It's a spirit body with powerful spiritual energy that appears in the form of a dog. P.S. Chapter 2. The computer can't be used since the blackout. I used the remaining power of my phone to write 2 chapters, so I'm done updating. I apologize to everyone. Chapter 581. In Japan, gods were divided into beast spirits and spirit souls. The so-called beast spirits usually referred to the spirit bodies of non-human creatures. Such existences could be understood as demons. This was also the reason why there were a large number of demons in Japanese folklore and legend. As the name suggested, spirit souls were the ghosts and gods of the soul and the netherworld. They were the products of humans after death. The common gods were inagami, floating spirits, earthbound spirits, and foodies. Among them, the inagami referred to the soul that lingered in the world after the death of a dog. It was also called the inagami, and it was a type of demon. The caster could summon it to bring disaster to others or protect themselves or their family. Therefore, Chiba Yoshiko reminded Yi-chen immediately after seeing Hidemoto Jiro summon the inagami. Yi-chen looked at the giant black dog that was confronting a demon blood guard from a close distance. It was over 6 meters tall. The demon blood guard that he refined seemed much smaller before it. He could not help but sneer. It's just a mere inagami. How dare it be called a god? Is that so? Hidemoto Jiro smiled arrogantly and performed a series of strange hand seals with both hands. Subsequently, 2 red shadows appeared before him again. One of them was an ancient military soul wearing red armor and a scarlet ghost mask. He held a blade in both hands, while the other was a woman in a kimono. However, her head was not on her body, but flying around her body. As the 2 shadows appeared, the temperature of the scene suddenly dropped. A terrifying murderous aura lingered in the surroundings, causing many of the surviving members of the Chiba family to subconsciously shiver. Those are demonic Ghost and Chong Mei. Chiba Izumi and Chiba Yoshiko cried out in shock. They looked at Hidemoto Jiro and the 2 shadows before him in shock. In Japanese culture, demonic Ghost and Chong Mei were evil spirits that were transformed from men and women after they died. They were exceptionally ferocious and valiant. According to Japanese folklore, during the Japanese Warring States period, there was a shogunate general, equivalent to a modern battalion commander, in Edo who fell in love with the daughter of a fisherman by the sea. Unfortunately, at that time, the daimyo, feudal lords, of Japan rose to power and fought continuously. This General Sure was also a member of the front lines, so he could not stay with his lover, the daughter of a fisherman. Before he left for the war, he could only promise to return when the cherry blossoms bloomed next year. From then on, the daughter of a fisherman would stand by the seaside and look into the distance every day, looking forward to the blooming cherry blossoms day and night. Who would have thought that the general would be gone for 4 years? During this period, the fisherman's daughter's parents died of illness one after another. After dealing with the funeral, the fisherman's daughter could not bear the pain of lovesickness, so she personally went to the front lines to look for General Sure. In the end, what she found was a corpse wearing armor. The daughter of the fisherman's family held back her tears and brought General Sure's corpse back to her hometown. She personally found a pair of scissors, needle, and thread to cut open General Sure's corpse. After removing his internal organs and cleaning them, she sewed them up again and put on the armor for General Sure. In the end, the fisherman's daughter chose to be buried together with General Sure's body. However, before she died, she ordered her men to chop off her head and tie it to General Sure's body, implying that they would never be separated in life or death. After that, the place began to be haunted, and livestock often died for no reason. The locals invited an eminent monk from Reigao to investigate, and the conclusion was that the vengeful spirits of General Sure and the fisherman's daughter did not dissipate after their deaths, turning into demonic Ghost and Chong Mei. After Reigao left, the place was no longer haunted. Later generations treated it as a legend. Even Chiba Yoshiko and Chiba Izumi were no exception. That was why they were so shocked when they saw the 2 gods that Hidemoto Jiro summoned. That's right, they're demonic Ghost and Chong Mei. Facing their shock, Hidemoto Jiro smirked coldly. I once relied on these 3 gods to escape from a Western powerhouse whose strength was on par with a sword saint. He looked at Yi Chun proudly as he said to this point, Mad Southern Yi from China, you can die without regrets since you've forced me to summon 3 gods at the same time today. I stopped playing with your insignificant tricks a few hundred years ago. Watch how I break your so-called reliance. Yi Chun smirked as if he was disdainful. Subsequently, he shouted, Demon Blood Guard, come back! Whoosh! For red shadows suddenly dashed towards him, and in the end, all of them burrowed into the flames in his pupils. Kill him! At the same time, Hidemoto Jiro shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3 gods standing before him charged at him. The leading hound god leaped a few meters away with a single step. Eventually, it slapped Yi Chun in the air with its palm. At the same time, it opened its bloody mouth. Yi Chun remained unmoved. The flames in his eyes soared. Subsequently, 2 dazzling golden bolts of lightning shot out of his eyes. The golden bolts of lightning grew in the wind and turned into blazing flames and lightning that enveloped the hound god. Roar! After the hound god that was soaring in the air was struck by the golden lightning, its soul immediately trembled as if it had been electrocuted. It fell to the ground with a bang and turned into a wisp of black smoke that wanted to drill into the ground. However, how could Yi Chen let it do as it wished? He stomped his foot and the ground shone brightly. The black energy that the hound god had transformed into bounced far away as if it had hit an iron plate. Buzz! Yi Chen activated his divine consciousness and turned it into an invisible hand that grabbed it. No matter how it struggled, it was useless. In the end, it exploded and turned into a ball of black light that floated toward Yi Chen. At that moment, Hitamoto Jiro spat a mouthful of blood. Hitamoto Jiro spat out a mouthful of blood and suddenly took a few steps back. His face was extremely pale. How can a mortal like you kill a spirit body? I've told you, these techniques of yours are leftovers from hundreds or even thousands of years ago. Yi Chen smirked coldly and charged at him directly with a step forward. Ghost Demon, who was dressed in scarlet armor, slashed at him. Meanwhile, Chong Mei, who was next to him, turned her head quickly a few times. Her beautiful hair grew wildly and eventually turned into black threads that filled the sky. They swept at Yi Chen like seaweed that was overflowing. Perfect timing. Yi Chen did not slow down. His vast divine consciousness turned into an invisible net that surrounded them from all directions. I'm lacking a formation spirit. You guys can be my guardian spirits. Clang. Ghost Demon's saber landed on his body with the sound of metal colliding. The saber shattered immediately. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's body suddenly emitted a dazzling golden gleam. From afar, he looked like a golden-armored god. In the blink of an eye, Chong Mei's black hair that filled the sky had already attacked. However, when the black hair came into contact with the golden gleam that was blossoming on Yi Chen's body, it started burning immediately and black smoke curled up. Ugh! As a scream rang out, the black hair that filled the sky seemed to have been stimulated and quickly retracted. It was even faster than before. At the next moment, an invisible net enveloped them on the spot. The net quickly shrank, and no matter how they struggled to escape, they could not escape. In the end, they turned into two black talismans that fell to the ground. Chapter 582. Retrieve. Yi Chen extended his hand and grabbed the two black talismans. They then disappeared without a trace. Bleck. Hitamoto Jiro spat a few mouthfuls of blood. He could not be bothered to say anything. He turned around and wanted to run away with a face full of fear. At that moment, he was finally afraid. There was a contract between the gods and the Yin-Yang Master. Unless it was the Yin-Yang Master's own will, outsiders could not take it away by force. However, Yi Chen took it away in an extremely overbearing manner. How could he not be shocked? Most importantly, the three gods were subdued by Yi Chen one after another. Hitamoto Jiro's mind was severely injured. He was no match for Yi Chen now that his ability had dropped. Demon Blood Guards, go! Yi Chen shouted. 4 crimson shadows turned into 4 monsters that shot out of his pupils. They charged at Hitamoto Jiro, who was far away. No. You can't kill me. Hitamoto Jiro was horrified. He subconsciously wanted to say something, but before he could finish, the 4 red monsters swarmed him. The sound of teeth chewing could be heard. A set of bones and hunting clothes appeared on the ground. If one took a closer look, they would realize that the 4 demon blood guards' illusory bodies had become much more condensed. At that moment, the entire entrance of the Chiba family's villa fell into dead silence. Everyone stared blankly at everything that had happened. As the proud disciple of the Hitamoto clan's master and a profound Yin-Yang master, Hitamoto Jiro, who had 3 gods, had died just like that? Moreover, he had died so miserably. Master's power is unparalleled and boundless. Chiba Yoshiko was the first to react. She suppressed the shock in her and walked to Yi Chen quickly. She knelt down respectfully. She felt that she had never been as excited as she was today after living for so many years. Meanwhile, her loyalty to Yi Chen had risen to its peak. How is this possible? How is this possible? Chiba Izumi collapsed to the ground in disbelief. His original thought was that even though the Chiba family had suffered heavy losses this time, as long as Hitamoto Jiro killed Yi-Chun, the Chiba family would definitely gain a lot more weight in the eyes of the Hitamoto clan. It was only a matter of time before the family recovered. However, now that his only hope, Hitamoto Jiro, was dead, how could the entire Chiba family withstand Yi-Chun's blade? As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, he sensed 4 extremely greedy gazes from all around him. He subconsciously looked over and was almost scared to death. The 4 demon blood guards looked at him with bloodshot eyes. It seemed like it wanted to eat him as well. He shuddered and immediately knelt heavily on the ground. "Respected Lord Mad Southern Yi, please spare my life. I'm willing to pay any price, including all the wealth, women, and power of my Chiba family." No one was not afraid of death. Even he was no exception. As he knelt, the rest of the survivors of the Chiba family also knelt down and begged. "Lord Mad Southern Yi, spare me, spare me. All of this was caused by Chinya Izumi. It has nothing to do with us." Yes. The culprit is Chiba Izumi. We didn't do anything from the beginning to the end. Miss Yoshiko, can you save us for the sake of our past friendship? Don't worry, from now on, we will listen to you and obey you. In the face of everyone's pleas, Chiba Yoshiko did not show any sympathy at all. Instead, she was more pleased. Before this, a single sentence from Chiba Izumi had made her a traitor of the family. She was viewed as an enemy by everyone, and no one stood up to protect her. There was only everyone shouting at her. Now everything had changed. The entire Chiba family had to kneel before her and wag their tails to beg for mercy. It was a great feeling. However, she did not lose her mind because she knew that everything she had today was given to her by the man beside her. Without him, she would have died on Shika Island long ago, or she would have been sacrificed to the god of the Hitamoto clan by Chiba Izumi. Therefore, she did not say a word from the beginning to the end. Yi-Chun walked toward Chiba Izumi, who was kneeling on the ground step by step. Chiba Izumi thought that his words had moved him. He could not help but be secretly delighted as he continued, "Respected Lord Mad Southern Yi, keeping me alive is more useful to you than killing me. I know many secrets of the Hitamoto clan, and there's no need. I have a better candidate." Yi-Chun shook his head lightly. Subsequently, he pressed his palm on his head and performed the soul-searching tactic to forcefully retrieve the memories in his head. During that time, Chiba Izumi screamed and struggled with all his might, but it was useless. A few breaths later, he fell to the ground and died on the spot. The members of the Chiba family who were kneeling on the ground became even more terrified when they saw that. Some of them were so scared that they lost control of their bowels. Yi-Chun looked at everyone coldly. "All the upper echelons of the Chiba family, hand over your soul blood and I'll spare your lives." An hour later, in a Japanese-style room in the Chiba residence, Yi-Chun sat on the tatami. He ignored the fragrance of tea on the table. Instead, he looked like he was deep in thought. Hitamoto clan, Lord Soul Eater? Interesting. Yi-Chun learned some information about yin-yang master clans like the Hitamoto clan through the soul-searching tactic on Chiba Izumi. All in all, the 4 yin-yang master clans seemed to be on the same side on the surface, but they were secretly fighting against each other. For the foreign fragment, the 4 yin-yang master clans had fought endlessly in the early days, resulting in countless deaths and injuries. In the end, it was the gods they worshipped that chose to cooperate. However, he did not find out from Chiba Izumi's memories where the Night Demon's fragment had been moved to. Clearly, even Chiba Izumi did not know. "Do I have to go to the Hitamoto clan?" Yi-Chun secretly frowned. According to Chiba Izumi's understanding, there were only 3 yin-yang master clans in Japan in the beginning. The Hitamoto clan was not one of them. The Hitamoto clan was suddenly established more than 100 years ago, and the god they worshipped was called Lord Soul Eater. This god was in closed-door cultivation all year round and liked virgin souls. Just as he was lost in thought, the door to the room was pushed open. Subsequently, a woman in a white kimono and wooden clogs walked in leisurely. The woman's pretty face was beautiful, as if she had just taken a shower. Behind him were 3 young Japanese girls dressed in kimonos. Regardless of whether it was their looks or figures, they were all exceptional beauties. The 3 girls lowered their heads tightly. There was admiration in their eyes when they looked up at Yi-chun occasionally. Chiba Yoshiko walked to Yi-chun slowly. It was the first time she revealed a shy expression like a young girl. "Master, I've officially taken over the Chiba family." "Who are they?" Yi-chun nodded lightly. He lifted his head to look at the 3 Japanese girls standing before him. Confusion flashed across his face. Chiba Yoshiko's pretty face heated up and she giggled softly. "They're the most outstanding women in our Chiba family. Moreover, they've never done anything before. They admire you very much. P.S. There's still one more chapter. I'm writing it now. I won't miss it." Chapter 583. He looked at the 3 Japanese girls who were as nervous as quails earlier but were now staring at him with passion and boldness. Yi-chun then looked at Chiba Yoshiko who was next to him. A spurious smile flashed across his face. "You said that they admire me?" "Of course," Chiba Yoshiko said without hesitation. "Master killed Hitamoto Jiro with just a raise of your hand. It's not an exaggeration to say that you're a celestial being. No other woman would be able to resist your charm." At this point, she seemed to have thought of something. She lowered her head slightly and said with a blush, "In reality, Yoshiko admires you very much too." "All right, get them to leave." Yi-chun shook his head lightly. Perhaps the 3 women before him really admired him, as Chiba Yoshiko had said. However, it would be a lie to say that they did not hate him. After all, he had almost destroyed the entire Chiba family. How many people had died in his hands? Even if they did not hate him, Yi-chun would not accept them. The difference in nationality and bloodline was one of the reasons. However, Yi-chun had traveled all over the world. The number of beauties and characters he had seen could not be counted with one hand. Even so, he was still clean. That was his principle. At the same time, he was responsible for Suyuhan and her daughter. How could he favor the 3 Japanese girls? An imperceptible disappointment flashed through Chiba Yoshiko's beautiful eyes when she heard that. In the end, she did not dare to disobey Yi-chun's order and chased the 3 Japanese girls out. Yi-chun nodded. "Pack up and come with me." "Where are we going?" Chiba Yoshiko was slightly stunned. Yi-chun stood up and walked to the window. He lifted his head and looked into the distance with his hands behind his back. He smiled lightly. "To meet the so-called 4 Yin-Yang master clans of Japan, of course." Inside a mansion in Tokyo, a few middle-aged men in kimonos knelt on the ground respectfully. They lowered their heads and did not dare to breathe loudly. Who was it? Who killed Teiken? In front of them stood a middle-aged man with white hair at his temples. The man's back was facing everyone, and he looked at the shattered wooden tablet with a grim expression. He did not hide the killing intent on his body at all. If there were outsiders present, they would realize that the middle-aged man was the current head of the Yagyu family, Yagyu Shinjen. He was someone who could cause an earthquake in Tokyo with a stomp of his foot. The few people kneeling on the ground looked at each other. Finally, Yagyu Akai braced himself and said, "Master Shinjen, Teiken was invited by the Chiba family before the incident. In other words, Teiken's death is related to the Chiba family?" Yagyu Shinjen turned around and looked at him condescendingly. Yagyu Akai's lips trembled. We are investigating." At that moment, a servant of the Yagyu family walked over quickly. He looked at the people on the ground, then walked up to Yagyu Akai and whispered a few words in his ear. Yagyu Akai's expression changed drastically after hearing that. He could not help but blurt out subconsciously, "What? Someone killed their way into the Chiba family. More than half of them were killed or injured, and they even killed Hitamoto Jiro?" the man said while sweating profusely. We also found out that Teiken followed the people from the Chiba family to kill Chiba Yoshiko. Bang! As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely sharp saber chi suddenly slashed over, brushing past his face and splitting the door of the room in half on the spot. Yagyu Shingen slowly retracted his sword. In other words, Teiken's death is related to Chiba Yoshiko? He might even be killed by the Chinese young man next to Chiba Yoshiko? Why, it should be. The man knelt on the ground in fear. Find out, Yagyu Shingen said expressionlessly. No matter what, you have to find out this person's identity. To be able to kill Hitamoto Jiro, this person's strength must not be low. This person is definitely not a nobody in China. At the same time, at Omakiyama in Miyama, Fukuoka Prefecture, an ancient shrine stood in the middle of the mountain. It was extremely quiet and secluded, and in a room deep inside the shrine, a woman in a long black dress was playing with a ball of thread in her hand. The woman's long hair draped over her shoulders, and she looked to be in her 20s. Her facial features were as white as snow, and her dark eyes were so empty that they seemed bottomless. Lying in front of him was a black cat with black fur. As the black cat looked around, crimson light flashed in its eyes from time to time. At that moment it suddenly cried out and looked outside the door. Its eyes turned red. At the next moment, the door of the room was pushed open. An old man in hunting clothes walked in quickly and knelt on the ground respectfully. "Master, Jiro is dead." The woman in the black dress froze, and her voice was as hoarse as an old woman's. "How did he die?" His soul tablet shattered. "He went to the Chiba family before he died." The old man's heart tightened as he opened his mouth. The woman in the black dress did not even turn her head. "How did he die?" "This." The old man broke out in cold sweat. The woman in the black dress slowly picked up the ball of thread and bit the end of the thread with her red lip. Then, she wrapped the red thread around the neck of the black cat beside her and tightened it gently. Meow. Ow. Ow. The black cat was instantly hung in midair, wailing and struggling. At the same time, the old man who was kneeling on the ground was hung in midair in an extremely strange manner. His tongue was stuck out as he said in fear, "Master. Master, spare me!" Bang! A few seconds later, he fell heavily to the ground, panting heavily. His face was still in shock, and a black strangulation mark appeared on his neck. "Investigate!" The woman in the black dress hugged the black cat in her arms and gently stroked its fur as if she was stroking an extremely precious object. "How's the situation at Mount Koya?" "That thing's willpower is too strong. Wisdom King hasn't suppressed it yet." The old man did not dare to hide anything. Then, he hesitated and said, "That thing keeps saying that it wants to *ck all the beauties in Japan. It even said things like whips and candles." After saying that, he hurriedly looked at the woman in the black dress. He was trembling with fear. He was afraid that she would be angry. However, the woman in the black dress frowned at first, then she laughed for the first time. "So you're lecherous? Good, very good, very good. Send the green concubine to Mount Koya." As soon as she finished speaking, the old man in the hunting robe thought that he had heard wrongly. A hint of disbelief and deep disappointment flashed across his eyes. That was because the green concubine that the woman was talking about was the #1 beauty in Japan 200 years ago. She was equivalent to Bao Si, who was used by King Yu of Zhou to play with the feudal vassals in ancient China. Her beauty was unparalleled. 200 years ago, countless princes and ministers were infatuated with her. Unfortunately, she died when she was only in her 20s. At that time, a Japanese yin-yang master could not bear to see her die young, so he refined her into a pet charm. Unexpectedly, Green Concubine, who had become a pet charm, became even more charming. Furthermore, she was a playboy by nature. She sucked dry more than 10 yin-yang masters with profound magic power. Even the eminent monks of Regoino had no power to resist in front of her. P.S. Today's update for the third chapter has been completed. I'll continue tomorrow. Thank you for your support. Please give me monthly votes and recommendation votes